Living for the weekend, for the MTV. High school in the 80s, oh what a legacy. Mixtapes, pop culture and skipping class, making out after school while having a blast. Big hair days and wild bright clothes, dancing where the night wind blows. Life in technicolor scenes, wishing on those VHS dreams. Soundtracks play our songs, riding bikes late night till the break of dawn. Sweet old days when time stood still, movies end but memories will live forever within our hearts. Polaroids, pictures and sticker charts. Big hair days and wild bright clothes, dancing where the night wind blows. Life in technicolor scenes, wishing on those VHS dreams.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Uncommon Podcast, and happy Aloha Friday, everyone. It is the weekend. It is time to relax and chill. We made it. We made it to the end of the weekend, guys. I hope everyone is doing well, and we're going to have a nice, fun conversation tonight, guys. We have some YouTube royalty in the studio tonight. But before we start, guys, I think we have to get a message from our sponsor. I'll be right back.
This episode was brought to you by the Real Uncommon Podcast. That is right. The Real Uncommon Podcast. It's uncommon and it's a podcast in a pod. We are podding out here. Brought to you by the Real Uncommon Podcast. Let's go. Let's go. Look at my hat. I look amazing. 60 trips.
We are sponsored by the Real Uncommon Podcast.
Who makes a commercial about themselves? We do. In fairness, guys, I know he's going for it, by the way. It's just fun to see Arcade's reaction. And shout out to Arcade for being a sport. He made that for us, and we thought, wow, let's play that. It'd be fun, though. But Dee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Hinano? Happy Aloha Friday.
I'm good. It's a good Friday. It's a good Friday. I was waiting for you to sing. Everybody missed the singing, Dee.
We've got people waiting for us. There's no time for me to sing. I'm so sorry, everybody.
All right. Maybe
Unfortunately, I won't be. Yeah, maybe they will sing with us. Ooh, we got to bring them on and get them into the spirit too. But yeah, I'm doing good. Hope everyone else that's watching and listening in is doing fine. It's the beginning of the weekend, so yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to talk with our special guest today.
Let's go. And before we start, guys, since we are sponsoring the stream, tonight's giveaway is this absolute Superman #1. It is actually the noir variant. So this is actually by reader copy. Yes, guys, I use gloves. so no worries. It's crispy AF, as Key Collector likes to call it. But yeah, awesome book, awesome storyline. This is going to go to one of the people in the chat tonight, along with a couple other things that I'm going to give away tonight. But guys, we will tell you how to win this tonight, and everybody matters. What's the term they use? The international lives matter. So anybody, please enter this in the chat right now. So,
Yes.
oh, actually, I'll tell you guys when. So keep it a buck.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool giveaway, Hinano. It's a
Thank
really nice cover.
You know me, I love DC. So, and plus, I'm
yeah.
crazy. This isn't my own copy, so.
No, he's stacking.
He's slacking, that's for sure.
Yeah, you got some stacked on that, but yeah. So anyone, yeah, just stay tuned for that. But anyways, let's get our special guest in. It's been a long time coming. It's been forever since we last talked with them.
I'm a bit nervous, you know.
I know,
mean,
right?
Like, this is a role reversal for us, right? So that's a little crazy. I bet they're in the same room together, right? We need to work on this, by the way.
Yeah, there's not enough space in your office, though, Hinano. You might have to come to my room.
Sleeping is chuckling in his basement, like, yeah, Hinano just doesn't want to ride too far. So, anyways, why don't we get him in, D? Why don't we get him in the studio right now? In fact, let's get into the studio right now, guys. We will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, Corey and Heather.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh. I loved that. I love seeing the VVN3 logo coming into. Oh my gosh. My heart
throwback. I was like, oh, where it all began.
You know how hard it was to find that picture?
Probably hard. It's been scrubbed from existence, hasn't it? Now that I think about it.
It has been scrubbed from existence, but let's just say you can use AI to find anything these days. So.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
guys,
weird.
How have you guys been? It's just like, has this been a while since both of you have actually been on YouTube together?
Very much so. I think this could be the first time, with the exception of a couple of specific VV things.
Yeah.
Like we've been together. You know, on a YouTube, definitely for a stream. The closest thing would be for the ad for the soup dumplings, where I joined you for that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think this is the first time we've conducted a live with anyone since Corey.
And we're glad it's the two of you. Yes. That's for sure.
Oh, wow. Wow, we've got an FA, D. We've got an FA. Does it even consider an FA? I don't know.
That's so awesome.
It is awesome. Guys, thank you for joining us. Also, I want to thank the audience for joining us, and also for the people that are watching the replay right now. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We have a really awesome couple here, aka previously Vivi and 3, but also Corey and Heather. I know, Corey, you work for Vivi, and also Heather is just working life in general. I know you've been doing a lot of baking. We're going to get into all of that. But guys, before we get started into anything else, how have you both been?
Really good. You know, I feel like so much of the history, anytime we're catching people up, we're like, we just moved. Because we've had multiple moves.
True.
You know, as my military service, we were in VV right in the very beginning at the end of my military service, which resulted in multiple moves there in a short amount of time while we were figuring out our forever place. And last December, we got our forever place now up in Hollow in Ohio, and Corey's childhood hometown. And it's been super nice. You know, just making home, you know, and getting new roots settled here. It's the first time in 10 years for me, but almost 20 years for Corey that we're like, okay, we're not moving. You know, we're here. And you know what? I don't like that wall. Let's tear it down. You know, and it's been fantastic, you know, to get to have like what feels like more ownership over our
Yeah.
possessions and our time and our efforts, because Semper Gumby, prior to this, and having to be very flexible and needing to be open to, the things I make today may not be here tomorrow. And things maybe that I cherish aren't going to survive the next thing. Because lots of goods, get lost or
Destroyed.
broken, in military moves, not known for their finesse and taking care of fragile items. And so it's just like really comforting, having like the space. And we've been really blessed with a space that we've been able to truly customize. Especially, I wish you guys could like totally see Corey's whole workspace. We did share like a lot of pictures during our construction phase. Because like this house we picked because we could turn our entire level of the home just for Corey's work. And it's really nice having that nice separation. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with how challenging it is having a family and having your family spaces and your private spaces, bedrooms, things like that, and trying to make it work for YouTube and things like that. I know when we were in California, Corey's office was in just our living room that we walked through all the time. And
you couldn't tell.
My streaming space was in the corner of our bedroom. And so we also were on two different, locations whenever we were doing things before. And sometimes we would do it his space, sometimes we do it my space. And it truly is rewarding to look back and think about all the different changes and things that happened that led us to where we are now. But yeah, I've really been focusing on like domestic goddess kind of thing, vibes, and just getting to do whatever I want, for the most part, while Corey's rocking it with Vivi. And it's still really fun seeing things from this side. Because before, I feel like so much of Vivi and 3, we were doing so much exciting conversation about what do we think may come, or what are some neat things that could happen. So it's really interesting getting to see and hear things from this side, and getting to experience some of the mythology and thinking that goes behind, some of the stuff. But yeah, it's been good. But I'm so excited to get to be here with you guys, because it is hard for me to still maintain the same community engagement that I had before with Corey's connection now. And I miss it. I miss you guys. I miss seeing our people. And I have been better at like hanging out in some of the Twitter spaces and listening, sometimes under my normal name, sometimes under an anonymous one, just what's going on, and it's nice. It's nice getting to hear people who still love Vivi and are passionate about, the various products and how these different projects can affect Vivi, and, thinking about ways it can improve. And I know like when there's stuff that's coming and I'm like, oh my God, they're going to love this, because I love this and I can't wait for it to happen. In fact, well, never mind.
Also a question I was gonna
I'm not
have.
sure.
Nobody's watching. You can share it. Nobody's watching.
Let me pause the live stream. Hold on.
But anyway, how about you, hon? How are you doing?
I'm choking on coffee. That's how I'm doing. No, I'm doing good. Busy. You're underselling, domestic goddess, that's for sure. Heather does so much because we work a lot, and we know we've got 2 boys, and they're both in school, and you're balancing everything. So I couldn't do what I'm doing without her, that's for sure. So we're still very much a team.
Yes.
And
just
my success is contingent on her, keeping us going. And it's been a big shift. We moved from a big city, San Diego, back to where I grew up, which is a town of like 2,000 people, very rural.
In fact, it's just considered a village. And so it's so small.
And so it's a lot more demanding for her because it's more driving. My youngest son has medical issues. We have to drive pretty far for that pretty consistently. And so it's been a huge weight on your shoulders, and you've been awesome about it. So it's really, you undersell it more than a domestic goddess.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sweetheart.
And I can tell you that we can relate 100% with everything you just said. We live in a small town. There's not a lot of people. We're very rural as well. To go to our Costco is like a good hour drive away. My LCS, because one
Yes.
shut down on the island, is 2.5 hours away. So, and I've got pre-orders I got to get. So, I mean,
Yes.
we could completely understand where you guys are going. Basically what you're going through in terms of that. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to actually the foundation of your home, big congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
We
you.
became homeowners, was it 10 years ago, D?
Um,
I think
like
it was 10 years ago.
14
Oh, maybe
years
it was
ago.
14. Oh gosh, 14 guys. Look at that. I'm way off, but 14 years ago. And we were young when we became homeowners, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And now my house, like I'm doing all the home repairs, but I do love the fact that I get to create my own space. You're 100% right. Having a family, because we also have 2 kids, 3 if you count the one that moved away, our goddaughter. But we have a newborn. We also have a teenager who thinks she's 21. My parents live with me as well, so I live in a full house.
There's no privacy.
There's no privacy in this house, but they all get it when we do a YouTube live, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but we can relate a little bit, and to kind of like rewind at the past. I kind of wanted to know, if you guys don't mind me asking, like, how did you guys first come into this space? Before we kind of go into the future of what you guys are doing now, I kind of want to revisit the past in terms of, when did you guys find Vivi the first time, or at least this space, NFTs in general? What got you guys interested in this space, and what inspired you guys to start your channel? If you guys can answer those questions.
For sure. So Heather was on a 10-month aircraft carrier deployment. And so she was on a deployment that was around the world, and it was moving the aircraft carrier she was on from the East Coast to the West Coast. So while she was deployed, me and Thor at that time, my oldest, had to move across the country, find a place to live. But fortunately, I had been stationed in San Diego before, so I was pretty familiar. And so we settled into a house there. She was deployed this whole time. And essentially, while she was gone, another one of the women on the ship that she was deployed with, her husband was back home. And him and I met up through a spouse group. And his daughter, Isla, was the same exact age as Thor. And so it was kind of like a spousal support thing where, both of our wives are gone for 10 months. We've got 2 little kids. We're managing life. We're in a new place. Less new for me. And so Brian and I started working out I had a 2-car garage in that place with a gym in it. And so 3 times a week, he would come over and we would work out. Our kids would play, and we would basically just unload on each other. Like, how are you doing? How's things? They're going to be pulling into this sport. Have you heard any news? And Brian was big into crypto. Like, that was his jam. And at this time, I was working as a developmental editor and a writer and an author. That's what I was doing for work from home. So I'd have a portable career, right? And so Brian's trying to talk me into, NFTs and crypto and this and that and the other. I'm a good old boy from the country where we are, back to where we started. And he couldn't really get me to bite. And then Vivi was going to release Golden Moments Star Wars.
Yes.
And he was like, it'll be the first time that these collectibles will ever be released, officially licensed from Lucasfilm on the block. And I got that because I've always collected. And I was like, I understood the importance of a first, and Star Wars is my jam. And so he sort of talked me into that, and I went in on that. And so that was that C-3PO and that R2-D2 Golden Moment. She's deployed. And so she's kind of hearing about some of what I'm doing through emails at this point. And after that was DesignerCon, was like the next release on Vivi. And most of the channels that I saw at that point were doing mostly basically how to flip money. Here's how you spend 10 gems and make 1,000. Like, here's how to get rich off Vivi. And there weren't many channels, if any, I think, that were doing information, like just this is why it matters. This is the history. This artist has artworks featured in these museums at these auction houses. And so that's kind of how I slipped in. At what point did you get back from the deployment in this? Because I remember you being a part of the initial stages. I just can't remember where that was in the deployment.
I was there right at those golden moments. I remember like coming off the ship. Oh, hi, Ben. I remember coming off the ship. And I'm like, oh my God, I miss you so much. And you're like, check out these NFTs.
I've been converted.
I mean, I miss you too.
Forget your trip. Check this out.
It was like a whole thing. At the time too, I was very ignorant about NFTs in general. I was part of the populace that was like, oh, that's a scam. Let's not even consider that. But what really sold me personally on it was, at the time, there was a lot of news coverage about how Bart had done so well, how the Simpsons collectible had done so well. And then everyone was really hyped up and talking about the other golden moments coming, especially Walt and things like that. And then obviously Brian, who I didn't know personally because I only knew his wife. She and I cried together on the ship, but I didn't know him.
And Brian and I cried together working out, talking about NFTs.
So they clearly had it. And Brian too, he was very, very knowledgeable in the crypto space in a very confident, but not annoying way, which can sometimes happen with individuals who are very hyped up, in these spaces. And so we were like, all right, what's the worst can happen? Let's try it out. And then, especially because at that time, all of our drops were very touch and go as far as like, how good are you at mass clicking this button? We all had like those little trainer apps, to see how fast you could do stuff.
We had our spots in the house.
Absolutely. We had, our designated areas where we would go. Don't stand anywhere close to me. I'm plugged in here. You go to the other side of the house.
Interference.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everyone off the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Your channels are mixing with mine.
Yeah, it was very much the excitement and like when you would land something. It wasn't just a matter of what the rarity is. It's just like, holy cow, I got something, because in, microseconds, these things are selling out, at times. And there was just so much unknown, but there was just so much excitement, so much life in how this would happen. And all the videos too, we're talking about tips and tricks, how to make it happen, as well as some theorizing about, the value of where these things are going to go. But we talked very early on, heavily encouraged from Corey about there needs to be some channels that meets the things that we are looking for. So we were looking for history behind things. That was an important part of the drops for us, as far as the story behind these collectibles, the information behind why is this comic important? Why is this character important? Because so many people are like, yeah, I like it, I'm going to go for it. But that wasn't enough for us. That wasn't quantitative enough for us to decide,
you
is
want
this
something
worth
meaningful
investing in?
Yes,
exactly. And so that was really what sparked VVN3. That was very much Corey's baby in the beginning. We watched several streamers that we were very excited, to get to participate with as well. And it was really fun having that community connection, because I think that was something both of us were missing at that time. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, what a throwback.
The 8-bit theme. I miss that. I love doing that whole thing. That was fun.
I remember the theme song. I remember it very well. I couldn't find it though on the internet though. I'm sorry.
But yeah, it was very much we felt like there was a pocket in the community that we could fill. And it was very much about providing information and history behind characters and things to help people to go into drops more informed. It's not just a matter of, is this a significant thing because of who it's made by, but, historically, what happens with things similar to this, right? How can we connect physical items to this digital space?
Yeah.
And we didn't see much of that happening. And so it was very easy for us to cultivate that little area for us and garnish people who were also interested in that same type of information prior to drops.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. It was a lot of fun too. It was a lot of research, and I still do that largely, but more independently, with a little bit more support. But yeah, that was the initial concept. It was information fast. For me, collecting, it's about more than just value, because value is such an intangible thing to people. And what might have tangible value right now may not have tangible value in 10 years, but what gives something value is the story behind what it is. I think in the live stream that we just did for VV this week, we talked about, the 1961 Fantastic Four #1 comic and how a good story becomes immortal, but the only way that happens is if there's people to talk about it and share why it matters and why it's significant. And then if a story gets retold enough times, it becomes immortal, it becomes legend. And so, and that kind of harkens back to my experience as an author. Because before I was working as an author, I was working as a developmental editor, and I ran a channel called Quintessential Editing, which was like a WordPress website, and it had, I don't know, like 30,000 newsletter subscribers. And what I did every week is I wrote basically like a large thought leadership article about different elements of storytelling and how your story will improve if you follow things like the hero's journey or you use dialogue in a certain way. And so I've always felt the power of a story is the power to add value to something, whether that's tangible or intangible. That's really what we try to do with the channel.
Yes, truly the information and the value behind that information, affording people the opportunity to make a more informed decision on what collectibles and comics they would like to check out, was exactly the direction we were heading.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I do think that take on Vivi is what propelled Corey into being picked up. Yeah. Because it was providing something for the community that I think Vivi recognized as being beneficial for them as well. So it was very exciting, when those talks started happening. I remember very distinctly at the time we were drafting a very special website, to organize and categorize everything. Yeah. Massive labor of love, massive amount of time and attention to detail, to provide one-stop shop, of information readily available. And it was really interesting, getting the
did we release the web hook? Like, was it I felt like it indexed really quickly.
Correct. So it was up. People were able to see some of it. We were sharing some of it on the streams.
I remember that too.
But then part of the pickup was that kind of goes away.
Yeah.
And so I don't think people got to experience it in any kind of full way whatsoever. But they got to see, what we were working on and things like that. But it was really gratifying to see that basically the stance that we came in on with VVN3 is what grew the channel, and it stayed like in a very honorific way to the same core values. And then those same things are what I think really aids Corey in his current role. The value of providing information for the drops, but now it's coming from Vivi. Vivi is preloading the users with pertinent information, which is just helping the customer base be more informed prior to drops, which honestly, best change in my opinion. Because back when we were new users, that was a question for us.
Yeah.
I didn't know this artist. I didn't know maybe this art thing, as well as the uncertainty behind NFTs. When you're bringing on new people, when there's a ton of newness in all the aspects of that, I imagine it was very challenging for additional people outside of us. So I love it. I think it's really nice to see that we didn't have to change what we were doing or modify how we felt about things. We liked something, we talked about it, we kept at it, and then amazing things happened.
Yeah.
And I think it really, really speaks to the value in doing what you love and pushing, even if you're not seeing a lot of
immediate
gratification, right? Like at the time, for VVN3, we chased a lot of, oh man, we're so excited, getting to 1,000 subscribers, getting to these milestones that were, chump change compared to some of the other, very large scale VV content creators
at the time.
And that can be pretty intimidating, because how do you create a massive fan base? And it was important to us that we were real, authentic people, that we didn't hype up or put down or disparage, the products or the company, the people. And I think us staying on our moral ground and talking about the things that we enjoy talking about instead of trying to do what other people did is really what, led us to success.
It's what you two are doing in a large way.
Yes.
I had an interview with Addy Granoff a while back. It's on the VV page, and something he said in there in terms of his art whenever he was, he has just such a crazy story. If you haven't watched that interview, you really should. But
it's my favorite one, by the
it's a
way.
really
If
good
you
one.
haven't,
Yeah.
it's literally my favorite artist interview that has come officially from the VV channel. He is such an interesting person to listen to.
For sure. And he talked about whenever he was working basically independently with no real training, no one to tell him whether it was good or it's bad. And he kind of just always told himself, if my art is undeniable, everything else will fall into place. And that's kind of what I did before putting it. That's kind of like a mantra for me now. Ever since I talked to him, he said that in my head, I'm like, if I make it undeniable, everything. And I think you two are doing that. There's a lot of really amazing creators in our space that really have they've picked their lane, the thing that they love, that they really believe in. And whether they're getting immediate gratification, whether they're getting huge results right now, they really believe in what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how you get long-term success.
Yes.
Like really when it comes down to it.
And very much sticking with your brand. Like I love so much that you guys do Aloha Friday. I love that you have your brand. You know, no one else can do what you two are doing. No one else can come in and do things the same way. And that's what really sets you guys apart. And so we were very excited, watching you guys start to take off your streams and things too, because I remember in the beginning, Dee was a lot more hesitant to come on to some of the things. And
I was horrible. I'm still horrible.
I love
You're both amazing.
I remember when you sent me the very first one, and I got to look at your video and how fun that was, to see that growth, because we've experienced that, right? There's so many parallels between our journey and your journey. And so it's really, there's a sense of nostalgia watching you guys grow too, because I feel it, we feel akin to that. And you guys were amongst our very first supporters, and we've sent care packages back and forth to each other, for all the viewers. These coffee cups, they're Hawaiian coffee cups, they sent us. We got to send each other some different, goods back and forth. Dee and I have shared recipes, because at Christmas time, I like requesting recipes in Christmas cards and things like that to grow my collection and things. I have all these really tasty salts that I get to use from you guys as well. And it's nice. There's a sense of home, even though I've never met you guys in person. You two are amongst the absolute first people that I think of when I think of the community and I think of Vivi, because you guys, to me, you guys are our community. You guys are part of the picture for Vivi.
Thank you.
Wow.
Where do we go from that? Let's start with this. I've always wanted to tell you guys this, and I'm so glad you're sitting here. You guys, your channel was basically part of the reason we got reinvigorated into collecting. So when I got into Vivi, it was mainly the value proposition. So here's a little quick story about me, Portuguese, by the way. Basically, I had one of your friends. I had a similar situation to you, Corey, where we had my daughter for the first time, and so I had a support group of dads for being the first type of dads. And so Dee knows who I'm talking about, right? So my friend, I'll just call him Brenny. That's his nickname. So, but we got into stocks, and we were getting into NFTs together, and we had daughters together. So then I was trying to get him into VV. We're trying to learn about NFTs. My first NFT I ever bought was an AMC popcorn bucket from AMC Connect on the Wax Network. Yeah. So
nice.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think I still have it though. But like I said, I tried to set up a Wax wallet, and it was so tough. I wasn't sure what to do. MetaMask was tough. So then I went on my phone. I'm like, I just typed in NFTs in there. There was this app called Vivi. And I'm like, well, what is this? And then it was the comic books that I saw on that app, because I got in around the Voltron drop. So I came in after Golden Moments, unfortunately. But why I say you guys got us back into collecting, like I said, I came into the app for the value proposition. But listening to all the stories that you were explaining to us about the characters, about Fantastic Four, about X-Men, Astonishing X-Men, that got me back into it. And so then Dee started seeing me buying all these comic books. I'm like, oh my God, it's Darkhawk #1, Dee. Oh my gosh. It's I just started buying it up. And I still have those comics, but essentially the value proposition slowly went away when we started interacting with this community. I mean, that's part of why we do what we do, is this community. We started collecting more. We started getting into the stories. The value proposition was there. Now I don't really care about the value proposition because I'm more into the collecting. You talk about stories, right? So I wanted to bring this up. I jump all over the place. So if you guys can see what this is, I'm going to blow this up. This is the Enterprise D, if you can see that.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Here we go. But anyways, the reason why I'm bringing that up is when I was growing up, I used to call this one the fat one because it is the fattest Enterprise, right? And I hated that Enterprise. It despised me, but I love Captain Picard. And so over the years, I always despised that. And so now I'm all grown up. I love Star Trek. They don't make as much good Trek as they used to. And I look at the fat one, and this gives me tears. This gives me tears. When I look at it, I remember watching this with my friends. I remember pretending I was Lieutenant Worf. I remember wanting to be Captain Picard because he was one of my favorite captains. And still till this day, when I saw, because I don't know if you guys know that the D did come back to TV, right? So when I saw it on TV, I cried. Ask D this. I don't cry.
Like a baby. Like a baby.
And that's because it
Beautiful.
reminded me of my childhood. And you're right, those stories. And so
Yes.
a lot of what's on the app, it reminds me of my childhood. I love Superman so much that I want to share this with somebody. And so that's what I'm saying right there. I can completely relate with you guys. Your channel, when you guys were doing all the deep dive, specifically on the comic books, I love that. That's what got me into collecting, which then got my wife into collecting. Dee never collected nothing before, which
Yes.
then got our daughter to collect. And guess what? We did this thing last year where we would read comic books. We don't do it as much anymore because my daughter's older and we're so busy. But like we used to pick a night where we'd pick a book, we'd read together, and then we'd talk about the book. We did that for like a year straight. And then, the kid got older and stuff. But but it was fun. But that didn't stop my daughter from reading because now she reads anime. And here's the funny thing. She has to collect the anime. I was trying to cheat. I was like, let's go to the website. You can get any book you want. We can go digital. She's like, no. What are you talking about? I had to buy her a bookshelf. I had to buy her a bookshelf. She's got like all the My Hero Academia. So what I'm trying to say is, I mean, there's My Collectibles, there's certain few content creators that I constantly watch. I mean, guys, we went camping one night and Dee and I was like, we got to watch Phoebe and 3. They're going to come on at 7 o'clock at night. No, I'm serious. Yeah, we were literally in YPO Valley with the worst signal ever. And we were watching you guys at the beach. So, yeah, I wanted you guys to know that your channel was so pivotal for Dee and I in our collecting journey. It reinvigorated my collecting. When I grew up, I was collecting a lot of Image comics. I love Savage Dragon, Spawn, Wildcats. And then, when you went into high school, it was very uncool. Girlfriends didn't like a comic book collector. So then I stopped collecting comic books. I meet my wife. I find Vivi. I find you guys. I find My Collectibles. The value proposition slowly goes away. I want to know, I just want to know what's dropping. I want to know, it's tied to movies. You guys are dropping things that are tied to movies. And so that's where I'm at with this now. It's like, I am here with Dee. We want to perpetuate the collecting community, and we see the value proposition in the tech. You know what I mean? Yeah. The one thing that I notice about this stuff that's not hard to explain is to my my 11-year-old daughter, 15-year-old kids. They get this stuff. Roblox, Minecraft. All of it is just like they understand that. So I guess in a way, this had to help an old dog like me to understand. But I see where the future is going. Our kids already see it. And I want to thank you guys for ushering that for us years back. I understand you guys are gone now. You have been missed. I'm talking way too much. Dee, go ahead.
No, I mean, I've been enjoying, what everyone's been sharing so far. Just going back on, your guys' channel, it was like, I think when it came on for us, it was 3 or 4 o'clock, I think, our time, Hinano. And so
I thought it was 7. I don't know. If you guys would get the time because you had to wait for your kids to go to sleep. I remember that. We're you guys now, right? So we're the ones that are waiting for the kids.
The tables have turned.
They have turned, and it's I mean, whatever time it was, I don't really remember. We made sure that we had nothing else scheduled, or we didn't have to do anything. And okay, go get your popcorn. We need our popcorn, and just wait for the intro to come on. And I was like, it's Corey and Heather, and I'm like, oh, I got my little sproutling, the rhubarb little
The rhubarb
sprout.
seeds.
My rhubarb
Yeah, I was like,
Yes.
oh my gosh. And it was so cool because I worked at a farm that we were an organic farm in town, and we were the only ones on our island that grew and sold rhubarb. So I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like I'll harvest the rhubarb. I know, it's just kind of like silly. Like I was excited about harvesting rhubarb. Like you guys don't even know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's like just throwing it all back. It was so nice to like have like our daily show whenever you guys came on, to just have something that me and Hinano can share together, being
Yes.
geeking out over comics and collectibles. And and just like sharing it with you guys as another couple from like across the states, in your own living rooms. And it's just like, yeah, it just takes me back to the root of like
Yes.
kind of how it all started. So I was like, it's been a journey, but you guys have been a huge part of also like our channel. And
Huge part.
like just growing our channel and just sticking to it. And what I love too that you guys used to do was the question, what was it, Hinano, where
The
you picked?
motherly and fatherly advice bowl.
Yeah,
missed
that
that
was like
bowl.
so
I was-
cool.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Every time you send a super chat, you would get like, and I said, let's send a super chat. I want to know what's in the bowl. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So
my
that was
goodness.
really cool, because like in a way that was like also providing something unique and like a utility for watching and participating on your streams and channels. And that's also like what helped us too. And even though we have a channel and we can just go on and just talk about just random things, it's like we also want to provide something substantial for like people to keep coming back, because of
Yes.
something that we provide. So
yeah.
it's like full circle today. It's like,
I love
Yeah,
it. And I think you both have touched on things that are really close to us as well. In particular, Dee, talking about getting close with your husband and having something to share. Like Corey mentioned at the beginning of this, I had been on deployment. And while deployment was 10 and a half months long, we were apart for almost a full year because
Yeah.
I had mandatory training and preparatory things. My role in the ship, I was a nuclear engineer with them. We go on the ship before everyone else before deployment.
Did the reactors going?
Potentially weeks before. So I'm stuck on the ship before, and we had so much time that we had to spend apart. And coming home and having, even though we're in a very loving relationship, we were in very different trajectories of life for a full year.
Mhm.
And our family had gone through so many changes. When I left, Thor was in diapers in a crib, and I came home and he was potty trained and in a big bed. And it was just
Wow.
like bonkers to me. He's talking. And it was like wild for multiple reasons. He also like exclusively spoke in third person at the time.
It's true.
And so-
Which is so funny because his name's
Thor
Thor.
has arrived.
Like Thor is hungry. Like, oh,
It was really great.
Oh, that's so
That's
funny.
hilarious.
That's cute.
And so Vivi was another thing that we were able to connect with together. It gave us,
yeah.
in many ways, talking points, things to talk about together. And Hanano, where you talked about like the childhood memories, right? All these different drops, and then that brought up so many moments where we had never talked about specific characters or things like that. And then now we can talk about this, and it incorporated so much more depth in some of our conversations that was really important at a time in our lives where we needed to reconnect.
Yeah.
We needed to get back, and we needed to figure out how to be with each other again after I was in a very high stress environment on the ship, but Corey was in a very high stress environment, having to go with a whole move across country without me, moving into a house we had never seen. And there was just like so much, change for both of us, and but not together. And so having something that we can unite together was just like such a huge win for us. And
I think it also like reconnected to whenever we were first dating. So a thing that you should know about Heather and I is ever since I was before high school, I played Magic the Gathering, the card game.
Yeah.
And, I've always collected things. And Heather, ever since she was very young, also played Magic the Gathering. And so whenever I got out of the military and was in college and I met her, that was a thing that we had in common, which normally for a guy, usually your partner isn't going to be super into something like, a collectible trading card game that you can
not
play.
at all.
But for us, it was like a big connection. We were able to go to like the card shop together. We were able to look at what our current set, like what cards do you have? What cards do I have? And we started going to card shops together. And so one of our big bonding moments early in our relationship was around collecting. It was a shared interest. And so that again kind of came full circle with Phoebe, because it was another thing that we both knew we both liked. Like we both like to collect. We both like to nerd out about those kind of things.
Yes.
And so that really helped too.
And I think too, by being able to come in as a couple was just another thing to make us different, from other people within the community. Like we have so many wonderful couples within our community that all offer very different takes and very unique interests and things that they're bringing in. And I love it too, because I'm sure you guys feel the same. It's nice seeing other couples, that are together, especially.
And they're down to earth too. That's what I love.
Normal people.
And especially when you can see it's like part of the family, like our whole family's involved. Thor's like, you guys are famous, right? Because he still sees Vivi and Vivi and 3 are like the same thing. As far as
whenever I got hired by Vivi, Thor thought that I then owned Vivi. Like my channel had become the company, and I was like, no, it's not quite. It's been a wild thing.
Oh, I got a funny story on that.
It's really a fun thing because the collecting has rollover with Thor as well, just like you talked about Nano with the kids. Thor's main interest right now, as far as like physical collectibles, is really into Pokemon. And which is really great. Which is really great, because I loved Pokemon as a kid. Corey loved Pokemon, and it's so fun seeing that Pokemon is still such a huge, massive thing, and we get to play. And I know what they're talking about. I understand.
That sounds like a competitive voice there, Heather.
So nice. It's so well. Like right now too, we're doing the live game.
Let me win, Mom.
And
no,
I know. Well,
I'm not gonna let you win.
He's got to learn. But it's really fun because he can like read now and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he's able to play these games on his own. And he understands what the cards are doing. It's just like so cool watching him be a more complex person through something that we have in common, collecting and doing neat things. And one of our favorite things to do sometimes when we're doing like a splurge and really exciting thing is we'll get like a booster box, and then we divvy it up between the 3 of us, and we're all like ripping packs together, and like showing each other. And it's so fun how, again, collecting is just part of our familial unit. It's a way that our family connects. And so when we see other families and other people that have that sense of nostalgia, that sense of love for collecting, it's really resonates, right? There's so much value there. And, I remember distinctly one of the moments for me when we were on VV3 and we were talking about Night Nurse was coming out, Night Nurse number 1. And everyone on the channels, on a lot of the channels, were like, well, whatever. I don't know what this is. I've never heard of Night Nurse. And they are completely unfamiliar and ignorant with the fact that the women, the nurses, are going on to some of the biggest female names that are in the comic industry. It's their first appearance, but unnamed in many ways. But since it's not accredited as first appearances in the annotations and things like that, they just didn't understand the history behind that.
What makes it valuable?
Being able to talk about that on the channel was really important to me. And also coming from very heavily male-dominated fields in my real work life within the Navy, it was really significant to me to get to talk with other women in like these STEM areas online and NFTs, and talk to them about the significance of women's roles between the women's artists, the female characters themselves, things like that, because that was stuff that people just weren't talking about.
Yeah.
So it was really gratifying and really validating for me to get to talk about those things because it had value. I was bothered before when we would have like International Women's Day, and a lot of our content creators were like, well, here's a list of female comic characters. And that was
where are the artists, where are the writers,
they're not talking about
where are the creators.
Maybe at the most they might talk about Becky Cloonan and her first Batman, very warranted, but we weren't talking about the women behind these comics. The roles that women had, especially during World War II and keeping comics going while men were unavailable. There's so much more depth that was there, and being able to provide that input just as a woman was really important to me. And So I was really grateful to have the VV3 platform. And so as a couple, we could talk about that because it's very different perspectives. You know, Corey doesn't know what it's like to live as a woman. But I was very happy to share.
I hear about it a lot, but I don't know.
And
Me too.
so I think there's some real value again, in being able to talk about those things. And even more recently, when it comes to nostalgia, we had the Stargate stuff start dropping. And for me, Stargate is really important because that was time with my dad. And my dad's no longer around. And I distinctly remember my dad and I were both just sci-fi junkies, big time.
Sci-Fi Friday?
I would watch these awful sci-fi, like one-shot movies and things like that. And I was so invested and so into them. And my dad was like, you need to watch this with me. And I was just immediately hooked. I couldn't believe, MacGyver is in this show.
She's back.
And it's
Richard Dean Anderson.
Different, but like the same, in many ways. And it was just so amazing getting to immerse into, that was like really my first experience that's more of an immersion into a total fantasy world that went on for so long, right? It's not just a movie I thought about, but it was just so many episodes and so much information. And so for me, that's another one of those things that I see some of these drops and immediately I'm like, oh, dad, my dad would love this. When we were having the office built, we had the contractors in here and we were talking to them about Vivi and showing them. And I pulled up the DeLorean here in the office and blew it up really big. So we walked inside of it so I could show them all the different things. Cool. And that's like so fun to do, to show people augmented reality things with our collectibles and to share Vivi in general. And it's just, I could go on. I'm long-winded about this, but it's it's one of those things. It's one of those things, when people are here for collecting, because of something other than, the monetary value, there's really a lot of resignation, with how people feel about those things. It's one of the things I love so much when Vivi modified kind of their look and their motto to talk about collecting at heart, because that I think is very, very akin to what so many of us feel for collecting.
Yeah. Man, where do I start? Because you guys have just like reignited a memory for me. We talk about Stargate, right? So for Dee, we talked about Dee is now collecting, right? But she never really got into like sci-fi geekdom until she met me. And so when she met me, she always wondered why I never went out on Fridays. Well, because Fridays was Sci-Fi Fridays. And I am a big Stargate SG-1 fan. I'm a big Stargate Atlantis fan. I'm a big Stargate Universe fan. And I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica fan. And it always aired on Friday. And so I indoctrinated her into not going out on Fridays for the entire season of Battlestar. So I think she joined in on season 2 until I think season 7 or whatever seasons they had. We never went out on a Friday unless, the entire series was done doing its run. We would never go out. And so we know exactly what you feel. So whenever I seen that Stargate, I immediately thought about our date nights. We would have Friday night date nights. Dee would make food or we would go out, but we would go out and get food anyways and bring it back home. And that's what we'd be couch potatoes on Friday. And it would be SG-1. It would be Atlantis. And then it would end with Battlestar every Friday. And I love that. And that's why we love the Battlestar IP so much on the app, because it remembers me. It reminds me of the time when I first started dating my wife and I was indoctrinating her into sci-fi. And still till this day, we look at that Battlestar and it reminds us of when we first started dating. That's why we look at that, and some people will look at that spaceship and be like, oh, it looks like a brick, right? And I'm like, oh no, that's the grand old lady, as they call it in the fandom, right? We call her the grand old lady. And nobody would know that, but if I tell my wife, look at the grand old lady, and she's like, where's the Battlestar? She knows, right? And so every collectible has a story. And so there's a lot of relation that's going on tonight, and I could go on forever. But before we move on, first off, we are almost an hour in. How are you guys doing on time?
I'm good.
Doing good.
Okay. Perfect. We have a question from Raven here. She says, how long did you have your show before you moved to working for Vivi?
Goodness. Do you remember?
I do. Okay. I do. We were a little over a year and a half, closer to a year and 3/4, when we first got the message.
To put that into perspective, though, I made a video for every single drop that ever released on Vivi for over 100 consecutive straight days.
Yes.
As part of my channel. And so for
Wow.
me, there was value in quantity and in quality. And so as a creator and as a creative, I'm very critical of my work. And so I kind of had to shake off that this may not be the very best video I've ever made, but I need to release information. And I was a journalist whenever I first joined the Navy. That was my initial job. And so I kind of understood the importance of a deadline and getting information out because people needed it. And so I tried to be very, I think Heather would probably agree with this. Like I went into my channel with the idea, this could potentially get me a job. And I really like doing it. And so I'm going to be really, really consistent. And I'm going to try to make sure that every video is a little bit better. Like I fix something, I improve the quality of a thing whenever time allows me. And so it was a year, but it was a lot of videos.
It really
it was a lot of content.
And it was the hardest drive, that I'd ever seen. And, just like he had said, from the very get-go, Corey was like, this is going to be huge. This is going to be big. And even though VV3 itself didn't become some monstrous channel, it did become something huge. It totally changed our lives. The trajectory.
It's a cult classic, you guys. It's a cult classic. I'm telling you.
It grew really quick. I think,
yes, it did.
I don't remember where we ended, but in a matter of a year, I think I was at almost 5K, I want to say. Like we grew it pretty fast, especially considering the time.
Yes.
Because at that point in time, that's kind of when the NFT bubble was starting to collapse. So if you would have started right at the like glory start days of Vivi, like your channel right now, if you would have maintained it, would probably be like 15,000, 20,000, probably conservatively, if you stayed consistent and never stopped. And it was interesting because the person that I looked at as a competitor, someone that was doing something very similar to me, was Aaron, my collectibles. And so I immediately reached out to him, and our channels grew in tandem. And so whenever he came to Vivi, his channel was about 8K. So in the time that I came to Vivi, between the time he came to Vivi, he grew an additional about 3K subscribers. So really kind of like interesting to see some of the parallels with that.
It also there were so many changes that were happening early on, in the sense of with the drop mechanics and styles. There in the beginning, we all were rapidly pushing the buttons, which ultimately resulted in multiple things happening for us. One of the first ones being we had all these trackers for radars and things around us, and we would travel, which many people who were
drive to cell phone towers,
because we're literally driving to different towers to get the best signal, because we just didn't have great signal.
Did you guys have a magic parking lot?
We did. Yeah. We'd had the magic. We had our place. We knew where we needed to go. So we're strapping in the kids. All right, cool.
It was just Thor.
It was just Thor for a while. Yep. And just getting there and we each have our phones. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. And getting ready for the drop. And remember too, we were still having trouble, even though we were in a great high speed place, and we were like, oh, it's the phones then. And specifically, my role with the Navy was electrical engineering with the nuclear ones. And so I knew a lot about electronics, and I was looking into the different things, and I was like, oh, it's the processors in our phone. We're not getting there. And so I did research about different processors and speeds for the phones, looking specifically
radios,
mechanics and things that would be more functional for what we were wanting to do exclusively for VV drops. I don't care about performance for any other things. I need it to be hitting these things, these mechanisms for me, so we can be the fastest, to increase our chances for drops.
You're married to a technician, my friend.
And so I remember being super floored too, because I went into the store to look at some of the phones and to check some things myself. And I went in and I was like, yeah, I'm wanting, this phone and this phone. And, the sales rep was like, why are you wanting this phone? You'll want this one instead. And I was like, no. I specifically want that phone. And he's like, but why? This one has more features. I'm like, no, it's not the features. It has to do with that has a Snapdragon processor that I specifically want. I came to the store for this phone for that processor. That's what I'm wanting. That's what we're going to roll with. And the guy was like, ma'am, the processor doesn't matter. Like he was trying to like mansplain phones to me, which was like super annoying. And like how computers work. And it was like driving me bonkers. But we upgraded our phones. It was one of the things, you know, that we did for Vivi, you know,
and
for our
it
drops.
did make a difference.
And it made minuscule difference overall. We were like, whatever, we got new phones, I guess. And then, you know, during that early time for us, COVID happened, and we were in an extremely densely populated area, being in San Diego. It was very scary, you know, we just didn't have the information that we have now. And then I had gotten pregnant with our second, which made it extra scary because we didn't know what was going on with my work, because I'm around literally millions of people with the military and lots of, you know, potential pathogens. And the military was isolating people left and right. Like people were coming back from deployment and then being stuck to camp outside for weeks at a time because they didn't know how long they needed to isolate people. They didn't have space to isolate people. And it was like a whole thing. It was dramatically affecting my career and what my job was looking like. And so having Vivi as another thing that we could like escape to was like a big thing as well. And it was really neat because whenever we were done with the military, then when my 8 years were up and it was time for us to leave, we were like, we just want to get out of California. We just want to get out of San Diego. Like the convenience of being able to order anything to my house at any time was really amazing, right? Like cooking dinner and being like, oh God, I don't have sour cream. Let me just order some real quick, you know, and it's at the house in like 30 minutes, no problem. And that was like really, really cool. I loved that, but I didn't love wanting to go to the grocery store and having to just go back home because there was no parking spots, you know, and it was just so populated all the time. Traffic everywhere. 5 miles is going to take you an hour.
Lived in the Costa Mesa, so
yes. And so it was just really rough. So we were very, very excited, you know, to leave California. And we had gone back down to Kentucky because that's where I'm from. Because my mom had a gigantic house and could easily make it feel like two houses with us on one whole level ourselves and her on another one. And so we'd gone there. And at that point, Vivi had already changed. We were no longer doing the rapid, you know, drops. We're doing not weightless style, but it wasn't quite so hyped, you know, and scary for drops kind of thing. We got mom really into Vivi. You know,
mom was
joining the chats. Mom would watch us live stream up in her bedroom while we were downstairs, you know, doing our thing.
Say hi to mom.
Yes. And it was really interesting, you know, how things changed. And Vivi was one of the things because we had the channel. And at that point, he had gotten monetized. And so we were like, it was one of the things that helped us travel from California to Kentucky. So we could have a place to go and we had a direction, you know, we had something to take us to our next stage. And it was one of those things that, you know, it carried us there in the beginning. And then while we were there in Kentucky, that's when, you know, Corey had to reach out to bring him in on part of the team, which was just like so cool because I remember the excitement of seeing that they had roles that they were openly hiring for, that they were talking about. And it was really interesting because there at that point, the role wasn't exactly what Corey was there for, what he was going to be providing. But they were like, yep, you know, bring him right in, you know, and it was really neat to watch that, you know, manifest because Corey from the very beginning, this is going to be huge. And the fact that it took us cross country and then took him into the role that he's in now. And also watching how his role has changed over the years has been really exciting. Because again, it just all circles back to the same values and style of information that we started on and seeing it still present, still relevant.
Yeah.
So I had a question for you, Heather, regarding that. So what was like so the first day that Corey, you know, started work, it was also different for you as well because you had to not do your channel anymore. Yes. So can you also share with us from your perspective, how was it on your first day, you know, when all that happened? Like, what did it feel like?
A blended mix, right? Super exciting, you know, to see that it happened, but also crushing disappointment, you know, to have felt like left behind. Because, you know, Corey got brought on, but I did not. There was never discussion on bringing us together. It was just Corey coming in, and it was hard because up to that point, Vivi for us was us, as a unit. And so it was really hard for me because even still at many points I flounder in the sense of like, where do I sit in the community? It's a weird in between, because not part of the team, but not part of just, the community. And it's still very challenging, because there's no one else I can talk to at the stage that I'm at. Which makes it really, really hard, especially because such a huge part of being within the community is being within the community. And, I had so much fun speculating with you all when we were just on VV3 and like coming up with such great ideas about, things that VV could do or direction that we would hope, it might take, collectibles we would like to see, artists we would like to see, collections we would like to see expand into more than just one set, but multiple sets. There was so much discussion and sense of belonging when we were in there together, and seeing Corey move on, like I said, was very exciting. So much pride in like watching that happen, but really hard to know that I'm now in this in-between stage. Like I said, it's still very hard because it's hard to keep up with what I know with what's going on within the platform and what can be discussed within the community.
That's it.
It's hard too, because sometimes, listening to people converse and theorize about things, and I want to be like, oh, well, yeah, that's coming. You're gonna love that. And it's weird because even when I do get to join the spaces, there's just a stronger sense of mindfulness and a lot more control on what are we discussing, whereas before it would have been so much more just freestyling, and whatever's gonna happen. Oh, thank you. We've talked about it a lot. We were kind of in a gray area for a while as far as like, can we start additional streams? Because part of the verbal conditions of bringing Corey on was VV3 going down, and then also I had the VVT. I had my own channel, but that also had to privatize, and go away. And so for a long time, it was just limbo in those regards. I did join the Women of VV and do a lot of fun things with them, join them in a few things. I've had a lot of really wonderful discussions with them, especially with Magic and Max and Janie, about a lot of really women-focused things, women in STEM, women in the NFTs in general, the fashion and the correlation between the NFTs with the Fashion Week and things like that. I had a really fun time too when Addiction first came to the platform, getting to talk in the spaces about some of the women's history and how I felt there was so much significance behind like a white man writing about an Asian woman. Like that's his main character is a female, and the diversity that he's bringing to that. And I loved so much that, his character is really modeled a lot after his wife, and how his real life inspiration, he created a superhero, and how neat that was. And I really enjoyed getting to talk about that, because that's parallel again with a lot of my own personal feelings about getting to talk about the significance of women in the spaces that are very, very heavily male dominated. And so I've kind of floated around, with a few different things. But it is hard, for sure. Even though it's the best thing that's ever happened to us, it was really challenging to lose that part of the puzzle, because that was just a part of us, to get to talk. And golly, do I really miss getting the streams and getting to talk with you guys and a lot of our other regulars. The excitement of seeing, the same people, each week supporting you, and, how fun that is, to see, that engagement, even if, it's just 5 people today, that's okay, because we're going to be here and we got to talk about some neat things. But there was so much excitement behind researching projects and getting to talk to you guys about them and why they mattered. And then again, getting to share those personal stories, because all of those drops, right? There was something we could all connect on in some way. And even if it wasn't our stories being shared in the streams, getting to see our viewers talk about why Stargate was important to them, or why Star Wars was really important, special memories. I love just ate up, hearing everyone's special moments with all these different things. And I just think still that is the biggest hole for me in Corey being adopted into the team. It's just, there's just this weird limbo as far as part of the community, but kind of not.
Which was the same for me in a way, because I couldn't as freely go on streams or talk to people like I normally would, because is it Corey talking or is it Vivi talking?
Yeah.
So it also forced me a little bit out. That's why I was really excited when Aaron got hired, my collectibles, because there's a friend I had, and now we both know the same stuff and we can talk about it. And, there's no issue with that. But
there's relation.
It's just a liability thing. People can't separate us from being just humans talking to you about a thing that we might be passionate about from, well, they said that and they have an inside connection, so that's the way it is. Like, this is coming. It's just a really kind of a slippery slope. It's hard ground to tread.
Yes. It was extra hard for me in some of the spaces too, because even though I tried to be very, very intentional with how I was speaking, there was still, I think some of the other people would have difficulty discerning me from Vivi. I'm not Vivi, not a representative of Vivi. I'm just married to a Vivi. And so while it does provide some insight, I can't speak on, the potentials, the decision making or anything like that. I can share my opinions. And so I've been very careful since then to very, very clearly identify this is my personal opinion. And it's not related to them in any way, because that's a very slippery slope. I don't want to accidentally encourage someone to lean one way or another. These are just my thoughts, my feelings and opinions. So it's harder.
You're a fan.
It's harder because in the beginning, there was a lot more freedom of, there was some bliss in some of the ignorance behind what was going on, right? Like being able to just theorize and not worry about, did I say the wrong thing? Did I allude to something that could lead someone to think about something in the wrong way and then make them disappointed in a drop? That's another thing.
And that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. So I was going to say, it was hard even because I didn't want to talk about drops, because even drops that I find are really exciting, I still liked talking to people about, oh my gosh, what do you think? Do you like it? You digging it? But I don't want to accidentally lead someone astray about what they would anticipate from that drop, what they would anticipate that collectible to do or be capable of, or if it's connected to anything else. So
everyone's a detective in the community, which is great. A passionate group of people that love this stuff is, it's really awesome to get to work at Vivi and get to experience that from the other side. But it definitely muddies the water in terms of, we came from that community and now we can't talk quite as freely.
The people side of you, the people side of you. Yeah.
But one of the things I am looking forward to is, for the first time ever, I'll be going to San Diego Comic-Con this year.
Let's go.
Nice.
I'm very excited because mom is going to come up and stay with the kids. And so we get to go together, which is so cool because
our first Vivi convention together.
It'll be our first, it'll be my first convention ever and the first Vivi event that I've gotten to go to, because all the other ones, it was just, the timing wasn't well. For a while there, I was just having back-to-back surgeries or recovery, and so it just wasn't possible for me to try to make it work. It was just too risky, and so now we're finally in a place where that can happen, and it's been really exciting, to think about it. I can't wait to hug all the people and to get the high fives and get to experience the excitement of con in general.
You can geek out. You can go to the booth. You know what I mean?
That's gonna be awesome.
I wanted to bring one thing up, and that's kind of going back to the fact that you guys are people. When we started our channel, we wanted to make sure that we never did something like price predictions or do what you guys did, because that's not our bag, right? I mean, we could research, we could like come up with a PowerPoint and start talking about it to people, but that's not our thing. We're more of a people channel. So it was really important when we got people like, you know, official people from a company, like say you guys, David, we've also had like Cryptoys people on, and also McFarland, that you guys felt like people and you felt comfortable. You know, you're not going to get any gotcha questions here. We're not going to try to ask you for alpha. Now, if you say alpha, that's really up to you. But the idea is
Ben's
like,
watching.
so you guys can be people, you know what I mean? Because like right now, we're getting to see Vivi and 3. And it's been 3 years since we've seen you guys on TV.
Yes.
But in your rawest form, you know, you're not Corey from Vivi. You're not Heather Corey from Vivi's wife. You know, you're literally just regular
human.
people, Corey and Heather,
Yeah,
just
they're
hanging
Corey,
out here,
yeah.
geeking out. And it was important for us that when people came on, that they felt that way, that they
Yeah.
were comfortable with being in their own skin. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, and we're honest. Like, hey, if you guys want to like break wind, go ahead. I mean, I'm saying you don't have to, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like,
I've been holding it this whole time, so I'm glad you told me.
well, we're gonna have to go on an intermission break soon, but like what I'm trying to say is you know, we get it. You guys are people, and you know, it sucks that it's like my collectibles, right? You know, before we my collectibles is a big one because they took you early, Corey. They took you early, but it took a while for them to get MC. So when MC went on, it was a big surprise to everybody, right? And then so like the community had to like get used to that because you guys were gone. The only other guy that did a deep dives was MC, and now he's gone too. And like I said, that's not our bag. So I really feel like there isn't really someone that came up with that role. And so like now we're turning to you guys because that's what we did before. But
Yeah.
I understand that. We look at you guys like, oh, they're the Vivi guys. You got any alpha? Like if you guys ever showed up to a space like you got any alpha, you're not going to get that here because we want you guys to feel like people. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew right away when you guys were like, you guys want to come to the channel? It was like, when are you available?
Yeah.
We have
It's like, I want to talk to people.
appreciate that.
I think Josh from Collectors Gone Digital does a really, really good job of sort
Oh, I
of
love him.
information
Yeah.
packed, really
Yeah.
well edited, really well thought out and researched videos. I think
Yes.
he's
True.
doing
Yeah.
a really good job stepping into that sort of content role.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's nice. Again, I love that you guys are doing you. I love that there's a sense
Thank
of authenticness and realness, right? We've got the real Hanano, and you know he's delivering that realness, and you know it's akin to your brand again, right? There's
Yeah.
a level of trust. You know, that's why it was easy to say yes, absolutely, we would love to come. You know,
Yeah.
join you guys on the Uncommon podcast, and you know, just chit chat. You know, there was no preparatory discussions that we needed to have, you know, in order
Yeah.
to come on and join. You know, just laid back friends talking with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course the beautiful irony in like being able to swap places in many ways. And, you know, how we began.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's really nice. There's some symbolism in there, and we love it.
That's awesome. And we're stoked to have you guys here. But really quick, everyone, we have a commercial break and we'll be right back. If you guys need to use the bathroom, go right ahead. But guys, we will be right back.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Some men fight through every battle, but even the Wolverine knows sometimes the toughest chest hair needs a shave.
Barbasol, thick and rich shaving cream. No need for claws, just smooth, irritation-free shaving.
Don't just fight bad guys, fight bad chest hair with Barbasol.
Download the VV app today and shave your chest hair the Wolverine way. Wolverine and Barbasol cans sold separately. Come on, we got it. Let's go!
Nice.
Get your Barbasol today, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Tune in on Tuesdays, guys, for VV Radio.
That's so good. I love that.
Goodness
Oh,
gracious.
man.
I hear Kevin Loader's voice in there too.
No, so it's what is it? It's Big Bro, Raven, and D. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, and you know, these guys do a lot of practice on the weekends. Like they'll go in they're hiding their secret X profiles. They'll start a space. Nobody knows they're in there, right? Because they're hidden in their little secret profiles, and they're rehearsing their lines for Tuesday's show.
I love it. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, anyways, guys, once again, we are running a giveaway. If you guys want a chance to win this comic book, please type in hashtag believe in yourself in the chat, because I believe in 2025, a lot of you are going to do amazing things, and all you really got to do is believe in yourself. Guys, I kind of want to switch it up to Corey really quick. So, Corey, I always like to know people's first day on the job. And so could you kind of depict to us what it was like to work for Vivi the first day, and really give us like a raw vision of this? Like, like the virtual coffee machine, tripping over desks. Explain to us your first day, Corey.
I think the first day for me, you got to keep in mind, I've been at Vivi for about 3 years now. So
yeah,
it was a much smaller team, and I was a part of a much, much smaller team within that smaller team. And so there was really just a handful of people that I really communicated with, and I was figuring out Slack. I was figuring out all the different messaging systems, like how our drives worked. And the big question really was, could I actually do what they hired me to do? Like in terms of, could I get that sort of content approved via licensors? And so for me, a lot of it was a little bit of fear and concern, because there wasn't a whole bunch of, there weren't a lot of paths. Like there weren't a lot of things that had been worked out at that point. What I was hired to do really had never been done. And like a really interesting thing about Vivi in general, and just the innovation that happens at our company, is a lot of the things that we're doing, no company's ever done before, period, because no one's ever done digital collecting like we are. And so a lot of the things that we do are the first time they've ever been done with that specific licensor, or maybe across multiples. And so for me, it was basically, what I can't do VVN3, right? Like the content that they want me to do and that I need to do is a little bit different than what I was doing. And so a lot of my first day was just messaging the people that I knew I would need to know and be talking to, and sort of just bring out some of the basically administrative stuff. And it's all remote, you know what I mean? And so there was just a lot of back and forth with my direct supervisor, the one other person that was really on the team that was kind of doing the same thing on the graphics side. Because at that point there was a graphic designer and now a video person, and that's it. So it was a very, very tight circle. And so, yeah, it was, I remember being pretty stressed because I was doing all kinds of scripts and content pitches and basically presentation decks, and, pitching those ideas to licensors, and then being like, we don't really allow licensees to make this kind of content. Like, can you adjust it like this? Like, I still don't know if you can do it. And so for beyond just the first day, for the first few months, I don't know if you all remember, but I wasn't making any content. And that's because I was having to get every single thing that would be made, basically create a road to allow that to happen.
Yes.
Because you can't just turn on a camera, record something, and release it. Like, it has to go through internal approvals, external approvals. You have to create the pipelines and the roadways for those things to even happen.
Yep.
And so a lot of it was administrative for me initially, which was a little scary, really challenging, but it really set us up for, success. And we've really changed the way content works on Vivi in terms of the breadth of images, videos, emails, like you name it. The team touches it, like when it comes down to it. So yeah, scary early days, but it worked out.
There was so much learning that was going on at that time. I remember we were talking about so much of it because, again, those videos were just getting denied left and right. And so hours and hours and hours of work.
That must be frustrating.
It's just gone. And even though there was really quality research behind what was going on, like Corey said, they were like, nope, you can't talk about our characters in this way. Where all these licensors, they have established their brands. There are very specific ways that they look at their brand and they present their brand. And while working with Vivi, their standards are going to remain the same, obviously. So it was really about learning the ins and outs of all these little, I don't want to say rules, because I don't think it's quite it. But like their standards, their
brand guidelines.
Their brand guidelines. You know, like this character can never look in this direction. This character cannot be on screen with any other characters. This character will not be on scene with this thing on there. So it was like learning about that, as well as this licensor wants 6 weeks notice in order to do their reviews. This licensor, they only want 2. So it was really about learning all of these little details about how the different licensors manage and control their product, their characters, and learning, you know, their specific verbiage, right? Because Corey would write, all of the videos have a script. So he would go through, write a full script. The script itself would have to go through the whole process of being approved first. So the licensor would come back, nope, you can't say that. I don't want you to say that. Or that part of our history, we will never talk about again. Remove it. And it
isn't quite that blunt like that, but really it's a feedback process, like when it comes down to it. So. And you got to understand whenever you're researching about collectibles and really anything in general in the collectible category, a lot of the information that exists on the internet was just written by people like us, people that like a thing. And so you may watch a TV show, and I think a really good example of this is the game of telephone, where I whisper something into Heather's ear, and then she whispers it into someone else's ear. And by the time it gets to that last person, is the original messenger from the initial creator, is it lost in that cycle? And so whenever you're doing research as just a normal person to try to understand the story behind, there's a lot of interpretation that happens. But no one knows their IPs better than the people that created it. And so really the end goal with anything that we're doing is to ensure that we are showing their treasured IPs, because I mean, these are things that have existed a century at this point, like
before we were born,
100 years, if not longer. And so it's really, really important to us, you know, at Vivi, that we are doing the very best job of representing their stuff, you know, to the most people possible. And then there's also regional elements to it too. You know, we have like what you know about Battlestar Galactica is more than what I would know, but we could probably both agree that the creators of it know more than all of us. And even if we've watched that series and we know every episode and we could mouth all the words, there's probably nuances that we don't understand. And that's
we're fans. Don't we know better? We're fans, right?
That's the trick. It's turning yourself from, I'm not a fan anymore, I'm a shepherd of an IP. Like I need to make sure that the message that we're telling as a company is the absolute best representation from the creator's perspective and the owner's, you know, perspective. So that was a challenge, because whenever I started, there wasn't really a brand kit per se, because the way I like to explain it is, if you right now made a toy based on a Marvel character, and let's say you worked at Mattel, and so you're making Mattel physical toys, and so the new Spider-Man movie comes out and you want to make that physical toy and you want to sell it at Target and you want to sell it at Walmart, there's a very clear brand approval way for you as a toy manufacturer in the physical world to submit your models, to package it, to put the flavor text on the back, because Mattel and Marvel have a relationship in the physical toy industry that now spans, you know, how many years? Like, they've been making toys forever. But collectibles, that is a brand new relationship. These are brand new roads that we're walking on. And so a lot of the early days for me was establishing, what are the rules? What are the guidelines? Like, for your products, how do we tell the story in the way that you want? Because this is a brand new product type. You know, an officially licensed Marvel digital collectible had never been released that's on a blockchain ever in the history of Marvel existing. So a lot of these conversations were conversations that were being had for the very first time. And so a lot of the early days for me was sitting in those meetings and sort of absorbing, spitting out ideas, getting feedback on ideas, refining steps, and just trying to find that middle ground where we can tell the story in the very best way possible to reach the most people possible. Because, I mean, that's the goal, right? Like, the goal is to tell the story.
And I love that example you gave about, you know, communicating with someone in their ear and it travels along. I like to call that ear travel. And then it's usually in ear travel, things get lost in translation depending on how many ears it went through. But now we have an understanding of what your first day was like 3 years ago. Let's fast forward to 3 years. What is it like going into the office today? And how has the team changed? You know, I mean, we're not asking you to give us any alpha, but just kind of like an understanding of how things have changed from when you first started 3 years ago till today? What is it like walking into the virtual office today?
It's a lot busier and less busy at the same time. Whenever I first got hired, I was the only person doing what I was doing specifically. And Ben Rose coming, co-CEO Ben Rose, you've all seen him. I'm in videos with him all the time. Whenever he came on board, he really looked at sort of the organizational structure of Vivi and tried to find, how can we streamline things? How can we take people that are high performers and put them in positions where they can do even more? And how can we make ourselves really people focused? Taking talent and making sure that talent is nurtured and, has the ability to grow and succeed. And so as part of that, I became a head of my department, the content services department, which really has allowed me to start streamlining some of the workflows, because in the early days, everyone was very autonomous. So I would do work and I would maybe touch one or other two people at the company with that work if it was directly related to it. Now, whenever we're doing work, whether that's, talking about a new brand that's coming, or we're doing a charitable event like the LA Strong thing, that is a discussion that's happening across the entire company. That's a big, big change from my day one in terms of teams being connected so we can have more robust and thorough conversations and really think about this stuff more strategically, as opposed to this needs to go out in 2 weeks. Pedal to the metal.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
This has to go through the licensor. Like, whatever you got to do to get this thing approved, do it. Like, beg, borrow, steal, right? Like, make it happen.
Beg, borrow, steal. I like that.
And so now it's just, for me, it's a lot more rewarding because I did it in the military as a combat cameraman and as a journalist. Like, I was a leader of teams, and now I get to be a leader of a team again. And so I do skills workshops, every week, where we all sort of upskill each other in different things that we may not be super familiar with. And so it's a little less task focused and more people focused. And I think that's really, really important if you're trying to grow a business, is making sure that you're retaining talent and nurturing it so everyone can be more effective. And then also making sure teams can talk to each other. You're not pigeonholed in your own little world. You're reaching out and being like, hey, we're going to be doing this. Like, does this impact you? Can we help you with that? And so that crosstalk is really, really important. And so it's really changed my day to day. So I guess to answer your question short and skinny, I start my day by doing about 2 hours of administrative work where I look at a bajillion job requests that have come in for creative, and I assign those out. And then I have one-on-one meetings with my team, kind of, where are you with this? Like, do you need help with that? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then we have all our scheduled meetings throughout the week. So it's busy, but it's a lot of fun.
And it sounds like you guys have streamlined communication. Now, I've been in the field of communications all my life. That's my career. It's what I do. And we'll kind of keep it at that. But I love to hear that. It sounds like you guys are using Slack or something of that sort to keep a cohesive connection between all the departments. And that's all good stuff that I play with. And that's cool. D, anything you want to add to this?
I was gonna just touch on that after 3 years, to hear like where you first started on your first day, and 3 years down the line, it's you've come a long way, because when we first got to meet you in real life in 2022, which was awesome, by the way, we didn't really get a chance to talk to you, because every time we looked up, you were just like running all over the place, making sure things were plugged in correctly, things are working. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, poor, he's like so stressed right now. Just try to make everything work seamlessly. And just to hear how far you've come in 3 years, it's amazing. And I'm really happy for you, Corey, and Heather too.
Thank you.
It's just, you can see like the different things that come out from the VV team. Now I'm like, that must have been like, something that Corey had, some work in, because it looks pretty professional and just like something that
looks like you peppered
Corey
on it
would have done. Yeah. So it's just so awesome to see how far you've come. And I'm so happy to hear that, you're having fun. Like, even though it's work, you're having fun, and you have people that are helping you, and you're all are working together all across the different departments, which is good, because when when departments don't like talk to each other, then things kind of like aren't organized. So I'm glad to see that And
I
he
hear the
agrees
baby.
too.
Cutie.
Sorry.
We're gonna have to
Yeah.
put we're gonna have to put D on a timeout real quick. Sorry about that, guys. The
No, you're
producer
fine.
wanted to say hi to everybody really quick. But to kind of go what D's saying right here. Uh, yeah, it's really good to see the transition of where you started until where you are now. It's really good to hear that the team is kind of fleshed out, that you guys are very communicative, and we just kind of wanted to know what was a daily life for you. Now
Yeah.
let's go to Heather. What is a daily life for you? Because now you're basically the leader of the house. You're the boss. I like to say that, and you and D have similar roles in the sense that D is she is the queen of the manor. So ever
Mhm.
since we had the little prince over there, Dee doesn't work anymore. She chooses not to. So I'm basically Corey. I'll leave the house. And so we kind of have that balance in between that. And so Dee now is kind of like taking on a role where she's doing more stuff. You guys see her, she's doing a Twitter space with Raven and D Biggest Bro. So she's trying to branch out and do those things. But specifically for you, now it's been 3 years. What is like the daily life for you? You're a baker, you're a mom, you do many other things with your art. Kind of give us an idea of what's the day in the life with Heather.
Yeah, it's been an ever evolving thing for me as I've kind of filtered through a few different things. With my history and art, I was in college for a while at the Fine Arts School doing a bunch of really neat things with them. And I really enjoyed that. It was a little more structured than I personally prefer. And it also was a little challenging because I'm an elder millennial, and that's just not the age group that's in art school right now. And so it was a little.
You're not young and hip.
And but I did really enjoy it, especially as that was something I got to do after coming out of the military. It was very hard mentally to get back into me as a person after getting out of the military. It was a very challenging time in my life across multiple platforms. And so I didn't start school until I was a civilian again. And it was nice getting to go to school because our youngest was in daycare while I did that, and our oldest was in school. And so it was neat being able to take off the mom wife hat and just be artist, for a bit, and do fun things like that, which was really nice because it's really reignited the passions that I've always had for creating. And even now, I'm looking for things that I can do, that involve art, that are fun things to do. I have a tablet that I get to draw on now, which is really fun. Because I also got really into reading for fun again, which was a huge shift because for near 10 years, all I was reading was tech manuals. And I was really kind of over the fact that my brain was just really filled with information that was no longer functional to me. It didn't matter, what temperature these thermostats were set at on the ship anymore now that I'm at home, and the max specs allowable for this chemistry and this style steam generator.
Are you still messing with the thermostat?
And and so it was really nice because I started reading, just for pleasure again, which was really great because I kind of got to get on the wave for a lot of the adult fantasy novels that a lot of other women are really into right now, and it's like taken over a huge part of my brain in many ways in a really nice creative way. I'm really interested in writing something myself. And there's been a lot of brainstorming and spitballing and note taking and things like that in the meantime. And it's also afforded me kind of another community to talk with because there's a lot of conversation that happens about how these books are connected and things like that. So that's been really rewarding. But as far as in the home, if the little ones aren't like our oldest one goes to school every day, but the youngest one only goes 2 days a week. So those 2 days a week are when I'm doing my most like performance things, and just taking care of a lot of stuff. Some of you guys are aware that I started a micro bakery, so I'm doing lots of cakes and breads and things like that.
Poor man.
So it's been really fun, honing in my skills, in those regards. In many ways, it's really calling back to, again, my interest in art and creativity because, baking is a science, but creating is still art. And so, it's really fun. Like, I spend so much time each day thinking about like different things I can do with sourdough and inclusions and combinations and flavor profiles. And it's just really fun to play with those things. And where we live in such a small community now, like Corey said, it's less than 2,000 people. It's just a village. And there's nothing like that that's here.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's also been really rewarding because it's a way that I'm now connecting with this community. Whereas I wasn't kind of like branching in just yet. And so it's been really rewarding to get to do that. But yeah, I get to do a lot of homemaking. But it's nice because it's on my terms, right? How I run the ship is how we're going. So it's really nice, to steer the way I want to steer and do the things I want to do. And it's been really nice to be so far out into the country as well. I grew up more in the city, and I was just like, that's where it's at. That's where you want to be. But there is so much difference between being in the city and being out in more rural area. One of the big ones being like the safety and security you feel with your family when you're out and about. I know, like in San Diego, for example, there's thousands of people around at any time. There's hundreds of people around you in all the stores. If your children are elopers or runners in any way, that's really scary because you can lose them so quickly amongst people, and how frightening that is. Whereas here,
and our youngest is an eloper.
Yeah. And here, there are a total of 3 people that live on our whole street. Thor likes to say we live on a VIP street because we were trying to have like a private street. And it's really neat because our next door neighbor has a child the same age as Thor.
Same grade.
They're the best friends. They're in the same grade. Their class is super small. There's 12 children. And so they have very intimate classroom scheduling. And it's really nice because every day he tells us how happy he is to live here, and he loves our home. And I've really loved being able to do fun stuff in the home. Like I totally transformed our bedroom. I got to paint, I got to put a wallpaper. We built a whole room down here.
Yeah.
We're talking about building a storefront for my micro bakery. And it's just like,
that's awesome.
It's so interesting how much life has changed, in the last several years.
Yeah, it really has.
And I'm really enjoying, being able to have all these different roles, like at the same time, being able to bounce around them. The baking has really been a huge thing for me.
Yeah, you're crushing it. Like, how many loaves did you take into the village yesterday?
I know, dozens and dozens, and it was really nice, getting to do that. And I'm very much like a gift giver, active service kind of love language person, and so being able to like I'm definitely I made you a meal. How is it?
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Be honest.
The baking thing, and, because people are excited about it, and I really love doing the cakes. Especially because in high school, actually, I was really big in cakes.
Yeah.
I was selling cakes. I did wedding cakes. It was a huge thing that I did on the side. I really wanted to do it. I really thought I was going to go to school and be a pastry chef, and that was going to be my main thing, my main passion. It was a beautiful bridge of art and crafting for me. But it was very much not something that the family was supportive. They were convinced that was one of the starving artists kind of things. That is not a craft. I was built for better things. I needed to use my
This
mind.
is all before Corey, by the way, so not me.
No, not Corey, not Corey. But it's very much you need to do something more with the brain that you have in your head. And that's how I ended up in the nuclear Navy. Very much so. And so it's really nice not using that nuclear brain, but still filling it up with things that have value, right? I see a lot of value in making things myself. I'm very much into the making all of our own foods. I've learned a lot about making cheeses and breads and lots of like homemaking.
I'm living
things.
The good life, in case you're all wondering.
Doing a lot of things. I'm making my own coffee syrups and creamers. We've got a whole beautiful coffee station that I put together, and it's just there's a lot of reward in like making a lot of the stuff, yourself. And it's also like it's satisfying the puzzles that I like to look for, kind of thing, problem solving. That was something I was huge and really well at performing at in the military was locating and solving problems,
Yeah.
and risk management in those sense. And so the way I see it now is I'm just doing it, but now I'm invested in risk management and things for the family. So, there's some loveliness about really clean food in the sense of not a lot of preservatives and things like that. There's plenty of times where, I'm buying things because I don't want to make it at that time, but having the freedom and the capabilities, like to have taught myself things, that I can make, I'm really enjoying. And there's things that, I was too scared to branch into, but I finally felt empowered enough with support from Corey to, take a chance and do some things. And so launching the micro bakery was intimidating, and really scary. And for like months, I was just making bread and bread and bread and bread and bread.
So
A great loaf of bread, but I needed to make the exact same loaf of bread.
And I'm in the bottom story of the house. Like our house, when this house was built, it was built by a gentleman from Texas, I think from Texas, who was coming to our area for oil. So we live 5 minutes from where I grew up. My parents, that 75-acre farm is, 5-minute drive from where we are. And so whenever we were living with her mom in that sort of transitionary period, and we had gone to Lexington, we were looking at properties because we wanted to settle down. And we saw this house available, and it was so big by comparison because, like I said, it's a really rural. And I was like, why is there? Heather's like, well, there's this huge, gigantic house there. And, it was priced a little crazy for this area.
Yes.
You got to keep in mind, we just came from San Diego and Lexington, both really expensive cost of living. And so we saw this house, and the way he had built this house is the upper story was basically, there was some bedrooms, but it was partially a business. And then there's a separate parking area, separate, cement poured stairs, and a separate entry into the bottom basement story of the house, which was meant to be a business. But he never actually opened the business. So the house just kind of sat dormant. And so I was like, for, taxes and everything else, like if I set my studio up downstairs, we'll be able to separate this really simplistically in terms of how we file our taxes and everything else. And that's kind of, it's wild for me because she's upstairs baking all that stuff and I'm downstairs smelling all those things. And
I just loaf down from time. So I'm like, here, have these pretzel bites. How are they?
Pretzel bites. Oh my God.
Dang.
So there's like a simplicity to life now that is really rewarding. Getting to take a step back. Really important too for mental health, going from a super high stress environment of what I was in before and being able to really take some nice big steps back and get some good breath. And for me, post Navy was really about recovery, mentally and physically. I sustained a lot of injuries and things like that. Like I said, I've had 4 surgeries since I got out. Just getting, recovery. And I'm finally at the point where it feels like life's on track as far as a health thing.
And let's talk about Heather's physical transformation too, because since she's had her spinal fusion, you have completely reshaped your entire body.
Yes.
Like she's been able to get physically fit again, which was a big deal because that spinal fusion that she needed to have, she was basically immobilized for quite a while.
Yes.
And you've completely changed yourself. It's just amazing to see. Very proud of you.
Thank you. But yeah, I was in a really, really hard time for a while. I was mostly bedridden in the early days of VVN3. So it was a really hard thing to be up and be on camera at times, to get myself be able to sit for extended periods of time, because it was hard. It was really, really hard. And being able to have control over my body again and how it's responding to things has been so important. And this last year has been really the big one for me. I'm now down almost 50 pounds because I've been able to be active and do things. And, along with that, has come so much mental growth. Being able to stretch out here in the country has been really nice. So being able to do things like choosing to take on baking and learning some additional skills on top of what I had has been extremely rewarding. And I love too that it's another one of the things that I've been able to add into the mix to benefit the family, right? Yeah. Not only are we getting to eat some really yummy things, but the fact that I can sell things in the community is really helpful, both from a social and economic standpoint. And it's been it's been really good. I think I'm at the best place that I've been at for a long time. That's why, again, we were talking about me getting to come to Comic-Con, because I can sit in the airplane for that long. I can travel. I'm not sure if we'd shared it before, but when we moved from California to Kentucky, we drove. But I was in such poor health and poor condition, I couldn't finish the drive.
Yep.
So Corey had to stop in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Yep. And we just strapped the baby to me, and me and the baby flew back on our own.
And I shipped the vehicle she was driving.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And it was crazy, because that's not the plan that we had. We're just gonna drive
have
through, have a big road trip. But I just couldn't do it. And that's so different, than how I am today, as far as like what I'm capable of. Atlas weighs less than the weight that I've lost. And so now lugging him around is like nothing, and I just strap him to my back all the time, when we go run errands and things.
Let's go.
And it's just totally different, than how it was, just a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think that's another callback to how significant having Vivi was, even at that time, because it was something for me to do. A reason to get out of bed, a reason to look into things and to not wallow, because it's really hard. It's really hard when you're hurting a lot to not just wallow. So having people to talk to and having things to look into, having something to do with your mind when you're having a hard time, is really, really important. That's another reason why many of the spaces that I have participated in have been focused on mental health, because it's been a huge journey for me. It's really important. I was struggling for a long time about how can you not outthink depression, but it's a battle. It's really challenging to get out of those funks, and to keep going, to feel bad but do it anyway. And it's something else. You just stick to it. You keep doing, what's good for you, what's good for your body, and what's good for your family. And I can say that it definitely turns around, when you're, sometimes it's simple as, like, I didn't drink any water. I slept like 3.5 hours. The kids are super loud. No wonder I'm in a cranky mood today. It's hard. But I think we're at the right place, and it's really wonderful being able to just focus on my family and to just be like, you know what, let's do this. Let's not, buy that product anymore. Let's see if we can make it, and some things have been atrocious and some things have been really,
experimenting.
I don't know what she's talking about.
So it's nice. I'm really liking where I am in our life right now. And I'm really excited about the things that are coming, not just from, a professional viewpoint about like what's going on with Corey's work and what's going on now with like my work kind of thing, but where everything's heading, feels good. There's so many things to be excited for. I know that, and one thing that you talked about with Corey about the difference between the first day and the last day had a lot to do with the growth of Vivi itself. And I think that's one of the most important things to me as an observer from both ends, is getting to see all the amazing things that are happening behind the scenes in Vivi that are just leaps and bounds from where they were before. Really exciting where they started at, but I love that they're continuing to grow and model in a way that we really appreciate and see, it's going somewhere. And it's so exciting, to see how professionally and personally, things are growing and doing good things. Thank you, Hippie.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate you for opening up to us. A lot of us always wondered whatever happened to you guys in terms of, your journey from before until now. And we've gotten more than enough of that throughout this entire conversation we've had. Also, I hope I didn't butcher Dee's question. That was actually Dee's question, but since the producer started crying, I tried to answer it for her. So Dee, I hope I did you justice. Are you able to talk?
Yes. For a while. Like as soon as I talk, he's like startled. but I'm not saying anything,
How
and
could
only
you do this?
yeah, it's like you're bothering me. Yeah, I'm able to talk for a while. Heather, first of all, you look amazing,
Thank you.
and I thank you so much for sharing that. That's like so personal. And I, you told me a few things and here and there from, the operations you had to go through. But to get like the whole rundown and everything that you've been experiencing to get to like where you are is just incredible. I mean, for you both, but you, Heather, as like, yeah, you're like superwoman, as Hippie says. It's like incredible to see and hear you talk about it, and like just seeing you talk about it and is like making you like emotional and happy at the same time. It's yeah, it's something so awesome to see, and you've come so far too in your journey, and you are also creating another food community on X because oh my gosh, like when I first saw your breasts, I'm like, no, it was your cakes. I'm like, what? She like bakes and she does all these crazy cakes and breads and these chocolate things. I'm like, can you please? I will pay you to ship to Hawaii.
I know it's been
like, oh my gosh,
so fun, and Corey and the kids are loving it too because
Yeah.
every time I've got new cake flavors, I'm like, all right, everyone round up at the table.
Yeah.
We've got 6 cakes to try tonight. All right, what are we thinking? What are we vibing with? And it's just like really fun.
yeah.
And
We don't have a baker in the village.
no.
The town that's closest to us, the village, there is no baker. And so it's
you have
been
one.
really,
You have one now.
She's sitting right next to you, right
it's
there.
been really cool to see her be able to sort of step into that. And there's been a great reception for it. You've made a ton of sales, you've met a ton of people through that, and it's been really fun. That's kind of watch you. A lot of loaves went in the trash, as you figured this whole process out. So it's been really fun to kind of see the entire evolution.
Awesome.
I will
Loads
send
of
you
love.
my recipe of my coconut cream key lime pie.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, key lime pie. Whew. I
But
love
with
it. Like
coconut
key
cream
lime
inside
pie
of it.
and like the custardy, just like custardy desserts, especially like creme brulee. Oh my gosh, those things are like
My mouth's watering.
I know.
definitely a big fan.
Yeah, that's so cool because like when I was working at the farmers market, there's a baker or there's a baking company, and they sell at the market, and they have like these loaves. Just their whole stand is like full of desserts and loaves of bread, and they have like the longest line when the market opens at 7:30 in the morning. They have the longest line because people just want like their loaves of bread. So yeah, you got a good market there. So
thank you.
Right on for you.
There's some nuance too and excitement because there wasn't a baker at all. My micro bakery is actually called the Village Baker. And so it's really fun, to have been able to fill this little hole, that was here. And there's so much satisfaction of like creating something. And again, there was so much trial and error, for a lot of it. And some of it, just didn't make sense. But again, like finding the problems, and like bread's one of those things. There's clues in what you've got, like where did I mess up? What did I do? So there's things, to look for. So lots of personal gratification in being able to do something that I was okay at to something that now I'm really good at.
Turn a 25-pound bag of flour, some water, into beautiful loaves of bread. It's really, really cool to watch.
Yep. I really love it. And it's so funny because Thor again is like, so how much money are you making? And he's also having a fun time because the 2 neighbors that are on the street, I'm constantly sending bread over to them as well. So I'm like, all right, Thor, here's this bag, take it to them. Here's this bag, take it to them. And he's like, I like delivering bread for you. And he's really having fun with it as well. Yeah. And it's one of those things. I mentally and physically, I'm in the best space that I've ever been at, which now I'm able to take on a lot more. So again, there's been so much going on in our home rearranging and fixing and personalizing, customizing, which has been really, really nice to get to do. You can put as many holes in the walls of the house that you own.
I prefer we didn't, but yes, we can.
And that was like a hard thing.
I've been in the same boat as you.
Yes. And so
I got to patch the holes.
Yeah. So it's just like nice, getting to feel like you belong in a place, and to then be able to carve that out to fit you perfectly is really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. We're getting almost to the 2-hour mark. There's a few other questions I want to ask you guys. Yeah, that's how it goes over here when we're Portuguese. We run
Aloha Friday. It's almost Aloha Saturday now for us.
Exactly. But before we're almost going to end the show, guys. Really quick, we are running a giveaway. But before we do the giveaway, I want to present something to Corey and Heather. Oh, I don't know why StreamYards did that. We're going to go here. Guys, this is for you. So this is a custom rendition of The Real Uncommon, which is a comic book rendition of both, or of us, actually. Myself, Dee, and my daughter right here. So I'm depicted as Batman, my favorite superhero.
Oh, really?
Dee's is Wonder Woman. And then, so my daughter, she loves Punchline. And so she's depicting Punchline, but instead of knives, Davo's the artist, by the way. He put a cube on there, like a Cryptoids cube on there, because she likes the Cryptoids, right? So this is for you guys. On top of that, you're going to get the signed edition from all three of us. But Davo, shout out to you, Davo, one of the awesome community members for True Podcast and also an awesome artist. He made a second edition with my son. So you guys are going to get the team right here. This is the team. This is the Justice League of myself, Dee, our daughter, and also the Little Prince as Superman. And here's a funny story, guys. So Dee and I, because we love DC, we actually had like Superman and Batman all on a picture, and we kept flipping through all of them. When he saw Superman, he went crazy. And I'm like, Dee, there you go. There you go. He chose his hero right there. So this is for you guys right here. These three. And by the way, for the people watching, if you actually own the whole set, you will get utility. I'll tell that to you guys a little bit later. And also, I know you guys love Thor. This is a light parade of Thor right here. You're both going to get one each because I just felt that was wrong that only one of you get it. So you both are going to get a Thor.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
That's beautiful.
Thor's gonna love it too. He's gonna be so
shout out to Kid Arcade. He was the guy
I knew that was
created
Kid Arcade.
Absolutely.
Such an amazing artist.
So thank you guys for coming on. So this is for you. This is for you. This is for you. And you both are going to get a Thor right here.
Thank you.
Shout out to you guys. Of course. Of course. And then also you guys, for the people that are in the chats, type in hashtag believe in yourself for a chance to win this Absolute Superman #1 Noir edition. This was my reader copy. And yes, guys, I wear gloves. So don't worry. This is crispy. You're good to go. First place going to win this, and then the second place person is going to win this Light Parade exclusive of Batman, specifically the Todd Batman. And shout out to Kid Arcade for also sponsoring that part of the giveaway right there. So
good.
This is for the chat, first place, second place, and this is for you guys. So guys, type in the chat, Corey, Heather, before we let you go. There's something that I always wanted to ask you guys. Could you please give the audience some motherly and fatherly advice?
You want to go first?
Or
do you want me to go first?
You go first. I want to reflect for a moment.
My fatherly advice to you is to just muddle on. Don't get stressed out about, am I going to be embarrassed by this? Can I do this? Just muddle forward. That's what we're all doing. Some of us are just more professional muddlers than others. We fake it. We pretend like we've got this. Maybe we don't. But if you keep muddling on, you'll get to where you need to be. And sometimes where you need to be isn't where you thought you were going to be. And that's okay too.
I love it. I love it. And for your motherly advice, I want you to always be the authentic you, because the authentic you is going to take you where you're meant to be. We were our authentic selves and got to be where we are now. Yeah. And that wouldn't have happened if we had tried to change who we were to fit in with people around us. True. So please be your authentic self.
Love it,
man. Love that, guys. I've wanted it for like 3 years. You know what I mean? And so like I told Dee, we gotta ask him this question. We gotta get some motherly and fatherly advice. And then finally, two more questions. Any advice that you can give the content creators that are watching right now, besides us sitting here with you folks? You guys are like literally the first couple on YouTube, in my opinion, when it comes to this space. And so we highly regard you guys in terms of the trendsetters that first started this. You're the trailblazers that helped us kind of like for ourselves, like D and I, we've modeled our channel off of your guys' power itself. Like you folks as a couple, like literally, I'm like getting goosebumps every time you guys talk because D and I are kind of like, you know, polar opposites in a sense, but at the same time, we support each other. Same thing like you guys support each other. You guys uplift each other. You're always there for each other. And that's something that both D and I wanted to make sure that we incorporated not only in our real lives, but also in our public life on the internet. Anything that you can give to the advice for all these content creators that are watching right now?
I think the best advice that I could give you is just be consistent and try not to worry and stress so much about vanity numbers. And vanity numbers are likes, shares, comments. What matters is just consistently refining your craft, whatever that craft might be, whatever the thing is that you like to do whenever it comes to content, just consistently keep doing it. And if you do that, those vanity numbers will come. But I think the biggest barrier, and this transcends content, this is something that I would talk to authors about too, is if you get so worried about approval, vanity numbers, you'll never actually get something out there. It's more important to get yourself out there, consistently get yourself out there. If you don't like how things are going, you can make those adjustments, but you can never make adjustments if you never start and you never stick to it. So it's really just about consistently doing the best you can do. And that might be a different level, you know, depending on where you are.
Yeah, very similar to where I was going to come at, which was make the video.
Yes.
If you want to talk about something, make your video.
Yeah.
Someone wants to hear you talk.
Yes.
Someone wants to hear your take. Someone's going to listen to it. Someone's going to love it. Even if it's not the most profound, amazing thing, even if you haven't perfected it yet, make the video.
Yeah.
Just do it. And then things will come. Things will grow. The consistency is key. Getting those numbers out there, they're going to come. But right now, do the video. Don't wait to be big to be big.
Yep. You two are a great example of that in terms of being consistent and just continuously working towards a goal. You know, the audience will come. If you build it, they will come. You just need to keep building it long enough for that to happen.
Yeah, it was important. And I was talking with the biggest bro about this months back, but it was in terms of our channel. We started the channel in a bear market. So you talk about like you guys started your channel when the bubble was kind of like deflating. We were already at the bottom already when it deflated. And so starting a channel in a bear market per se is tough. Keeping it consistent is hard. In fact, there was a point where D and I was going to quit. And I want to give a big shout out to Joe and Rob. They convinced us not to do that. They were the ones also convinced us to actually do it on YouTube because we're just doing it on X. So it is tough to do this. And the thing that I was talking to Big Bro about is like, because we could have grown the channel through like maybe doing some shorts or like try to artificially like get our numbers. But I was telling him that I want organic growth. And what that means to me is everybody you see in this chat is always there on Friday. And that is organic growth to me. That shows that the engagement means more to me than the numbers, because you could have maybe 50 people going through this chat. And that makes me happy because that makes me feel like, okay, I am providing a space. Both D and I are providing a space that they can come and hang out in. And also while they're hanging out, they can either learn something or be a part of the conversation. And that's the whole idea of this channel. And so when it comes to the numbers, you are 100% right. It's all about the engagement. And I can tell you, we only have 774 followers. They all watch us. You don't got a bot. It's not somebody watching a short. They're all here to watch us. Unfortunately, but you know, they're here to watch us. And so I really appreciate the motherly fatherly advice, as well as this for the content creators watching, because I feel like for you guys being such OGs in this space, it's really good for us to hear that. for us to hear your guys' advice and all that stuff. So thank you so much, guys. D, anything you want to add to this before I ask their final question?
Oh man, I can't top that. Everything that you guys have all said, it's so heartwarming and just beautiful. But truly appreciate you both for taking your time and just come on here and hang out with us.
Of
I
course.
mean, yeah, it's
We should
been
do it
it's
again.
been great.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been great, and I'm so happy that you both were able to come on like a channel with us, or just a channel, and just be able to just talk about
Be
you.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not like be all business like, just to get it out there. And people are listening, and you guys have such amazing stories from where you started to where you are now, and just great words to inspire, and for even me and Hinano to keep on doing what we're doing. And things will take time, but if we are consistent, like you said, I believe we will get there.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, guys, and this is the tail end. And so this is what we normally like to ask our guests every single time they come on is, you can now ask us a question. It's usually a role reversal at the end. So is there anything you want to ask D and I before we let you guys go?
Yes. What are you the most looking forward to in your own personal goals? And what are you looking forward to in your professional goals? And what are you looking forward to, Vivi?
You want to go first, D?
I might have to think about that one.
Okay. I'll go
Yeah.
first then. So when it comes to my professional life, I would like for my professional life to slow down. I have been in the communication field for ever since I was in high school, ever since 2000. And so, I mean, I started off as a lineman. I pretty much, I dove in the ocean. I brought fiber up into the, for the cross connection into the landmass. I've been in sewers. So, and now I'm a guy that sits behind a desk. So I would like for my my professional life to kind of slow down a little bit, because if you guys watch our content, usually on Tuesday nights, I am dead tired. And, Big Bro likes to tell me, how do you have the time? I just make the time, between kids, my real job. And then I don't want to really call this a real job, but it really is kind of like, a second life. And, this is important to us. It's important that we provide this because we grew a community. The whole reason we're here is because of the engagement that I told you guys. All these people are in our Discord. We've met them in Vegas, which blew my mind. Guys, I got a tangent here. It blew my mind when we met these people at DCon, because they were asking for autographs and calling us these things that we don't look at ourselves like. We're not. I don't like to look at ourselves as like a superstar. I'm looking at you, Mission, because he's exactly who told us that when we were eating. But yeah, like that's not us. We come up here because we wanted to start a channel about people. We like to call ourselves as not really content creators, but just community members that turn on a camera. But there was that fanfare. So, for my personal life, I would like to do a lot more of this. I would also like to, get my daughter into this. My daughter is really wanting to do gaming, and she's been trying to get me to help her with her channel. I've been so busy. So that's something that I want to do for her. She's into Roblox. Her handle is Mel the Gamer. So we have to make a Mel the Gamer channel. So for my personal life, I want to do that. And then what was the third one? It was professional, personal, and
Vivi.
And Vivi. Okay, so for Vivi now, well, I'm not really sure how to answer that one. So for Vivi, for me, it's about the connection with the people. That's what makes me stick around the most. I participate in some drops. I'm very selective now, as we all are. I'm not a stamp person, so I'm not going to be going over some stamps. But when it comes to the community, Web V, it's something that really that I'm proud of as well. I mean, that I'm one of the founding members of Web V. The president likes to call me the VP. I'm just the other guy that hung out, right? But like, that too, I would like to do stuff like that in my personal life. So for the personal life, just trying to be more present for everybody. Yeah. I hope that answered your questions.
It does. And I love it. I love getting a snippet of Hinano, on a whole nother layer, than
oh, we have we could have a long conversation about this. We definitely need to have a part 2.
I know. But next time we'll definitely have to talk about games and stuff too, because we just got an Omni One that we still have to assemble one of the VR machines to like stand in and everything and we're really looking forward to dealing with content potentially around that as well. And yeah, games are like a whole nother realm.
It's a big passion of ours.
Passion and excitement, for us.
Yeah, do you guys do any VR chat? Because OBL was like adamant on like we have to try VR chat.
OBL about that.
Yeah,
I'm really hopeful and encouraging that we can get that going like in a bigger way. I know Aaron and the social team are doing a lot of different things with a lot of different creators in the space to sort of prop up quality content and things that we really like to see in the community. And so I know she pushes further into that. She should get that support because I think that's really invaluable.
Absolutely.
There's a few people in our space that are, really dialed into sort of the metaversal VR aspect and the Vverse on schedule, and so that's going to roll out. And I think that's really going to change. And I'm speaking from personal experience as someone who's now been in a lot of different spaces with a lot of different people and a part of the beta group for a really long time. Like the ability for you and 30 people to jump into a space with each other, and turn on your cameras and have avatars, and you could build a comic showroom and put little placards next to all your comics, with a little note tools and be like, this is mint number, whatever. And it's for like, I think it's really going to change the way this community interacts with each other. Yes. And so I think there's just a huge space for anyone that's really interested in making metaversal VVverse or, VR type content. The Vverse is really going to make that. It's just such a huge potential for a lot of people. And I think it's going to be very similar to when VV started. Like if you were here the day VV opened the app and you started making content, it kind of ushered you in. I kind of feel like the VVverse is going to be very similar for some content creators that are really into that.
Yes.
And I'm excited for that.
I am too. Like I'm super excited for it. I'm super excited about some of the content opportunities from my perspective. Like I think it'd be super cool to be able to do a space from the VVverse and a studio that we built and have like our avatars in there and invite, 20 people from the community to, if we want to do a level 100 meeting, we could all do it in the VVverse together if we wanted to, right? Like there's just a lot of cool content opportunities I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think about like all the personal connections you're going to be able to make because, a lot of us who are collectors in the digital world, started as collectors in the physical world, but there's so much space and, money that you can, do to acquire the things that you want in the physical world. Whereas in the digital world, whenever we're talking about the collections that we like, it's really a matter of like, did it come up in conversation? Did we bring it up? But if you invite me into your space and there's 500 Tobies, what's the story?
Let's talk about these Tobies, right? Like, what's going on, man?
Right?
Are you okay?
What's with the stare of Tobies?
Here's all these characters that are unrelated, but why are they here? Oh, these are all the characters that made you cry. Can you tell me about those, stories and stuff? It's just about getting to see a more immersive experience of connecting with that community, which again, you were touching on. There's so much value, I think, again, from like a mental health standpoint, from being able to connect with people. I know people like to say things like, go touch grass, but in many ways, I feel like this will be akin to that because you're going to be able to connect with people in a more deeper, more meaningful way and have more informative conversations about the things that, are important to you. The opportunities to have the stories of sharing significant moments with your loved ones or special memories that you have, that maybe it wouldn't have been brought up, but because they can see, you have a lot of this collection or you have a bunch of this specific artist, tell me about it. What do you love? Not only from an artistic standpoint, how beautifully you've orchestrated this and put it together, even if it's something as simple as everything's lined up. What do you love here? You know what I mean? You don't have to be an artist with a huge vision, to be able to share your space and be able to talk to people about what you love and why you collect what you do. I think a lot of the community will make some really amazing spaces, but that doesn't diminish, the value of a more simple space. I think it's really going to show a whole level of personalization that we're not able to see right now in the community, but will be opened up. And it's going to open up a whole new level of connection within the community. And for those of us who are here for the community, for the collection, for the stories, that's really going to be immensely valuable to us.
Yeah. And before Dee answers the question, I kind of want to like touch on the VVverse right here, because for me, I never looked at it as a AAA game. I know some people are looking at that. I am a Sim City builder. tried and true. You know, from the Windows 3.1 days when SimCity 2000 came out until like, you know, regular Sim Ant, Sim Earth. Yes, Sim Earth was hard. But you know, I mean, like just the world building aspect right there. I love that. And so for me, I always loved the social media aspect of the VVverse. That's how I've always looked at it. Because right now, we are in the VVverse. If you think about it, Twitter, Discord, it's just a construct for us to kind of like culminate together and connect. We're connecting right now. Our chat is connecting. We're in a form of VVverse because VV is the entity that kind of brought us all together. And so now the VVverse is just going to be another construct where we can all come together, a la VR chat, and do what we want to do in there in terms of the social media aspect. And it reminds me of MySpace when MySpace first came to be. Yes. Everyone was a hacker that, you know, when they had MySpace, because you could literally, you know, if you know HTML code, you could add music and background and graphics. And that is just another form of social media when it was actually getting built for the first time. There's going to be other things. Futureverse, you could consider like a Facebook, right? And so that's how I'm looking at the VVverse, and specifically, and here's where it gets good. I remember growing up, fandoms, you didn't have a place. You know what I mean? Like in school, you would like get pants or something like that if you had comic books in your bag. Nobody liked that stuff. It wasn't cool. So the comic book store, the LCS, is where we hung out. And my LCS was a video store. It's called Specialty Videos. And so you had like it had one arcade, you know, like an SNEK, you know, it had like maybe the 4 or 5 games. And, you know, you could get your VHS tapes. I think it was, in fact, I remember a moment when I bought Spider-Man 2099. It was in our video store. There was like only one shelf full of comic books, and all of the nerds hung out in there, all the geeks. I hung out in there because I would have to pass that Specialty Videos on my way from school going home. So I feel the VVerse is just going to be another place like that where people like my daughter, fandoms can come together and come and hang out. And that's a good thing because back then you didn't have that. It almost felt like, you know, it was a bad thing to be a geek. You couldn't geek out. You couldn't have a place to culminate. And now there's a digital realm like that for people in a place that is built for collectors. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And so I'll leave it at that.
All right, Dee, you're up. We're looking for personal growth, professional growth. And professional growth, I know you're at home now, but like the homemaking, that's going to be your professional, like the mom role, the house role. Let's hear some stuff about that.
Well, let's see. First of all, I think I need to actually sleep when the little one is sleeping. Take advantage of that for sure. Because it's just hard because when he's sleeping, it's like now I have time to do everything else.
Do everything, and sometimes it's doom scrolling. A lot of times, scrolling. But, you know, because like you need to like decompress. You know, from everything. I know the two of us. You know, we've been finding more ways to connect. Because we're both run all day, and then the kids are asleep, and we're both like, "Well, I sent you like 30 TikToks, you know."
So, did you watch my TikToks? And I'm like, 34 notifications. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 34 minutes if they're all a minute long.
So getting sleep is a great goal, but also try not to fret so much about getting the stuff done when they're sleeping, because you know that decompression is important too.
Yeah. And I guess just enjoying spending time with our son, because I'm very fortunate to be able to be at home with him. Even though he has his personality from time to time, just to cherish the moments, because before I know it, he's gonna be like running around, and you know, I can't get those things back.
And he loves you. He loves you. He adores you.
Yeah. And then for like, I guess, I mean, for the podcast, that's kind of like my professional thing now. So for my goal is to be, to hopefully learn more of like what Hinano does in the background, at least like a little bit, because I know he does a lot, and I'm like, I don't want to be like too overwhelmed and just like mess everything up. So I think for me to be able to like learn more on like what kind of goes on behind the scenes like at least a little bit of it. That would be great for me to learn, and just be more confident in myself when I do like spaces with Raven and Big Bro, and yeah, just even like talking with you guys and other people that come on, just to be more confident, even more than I am now. And a goal for me with Vivi is to read more comic books, because I have like, I buy the comic books, but then I don't read them all the time.
That's
Now
a good
with
one
our-
though, because sometimes I question, should I not open it? Should I keep it unread? You know, for like
Yeah.
the digital the lineage, you know, and it's like, is there utility down the line that we haven't accessed yet?
Yeah.
You know, if we ever get to a point where we're grading our digitals, is it going to matter if we read
Yeah.
it?
Right.
Just wild speculation on Heather's part, by the way.
Speculation.
Yeah.
These are not
Good
conversations
clarification.
that
Yeah. They're people, guys. They're people.
Well, there's always you can always get more than one. Then if they do something like that in the future, you can still have one unopened and one that you do read. But yeah, I mean, now that we have the weekly space on Tuesdays, we do have homework from our special guest that comes on. So they do recommend a book for us, and then that's like our weekly thing that we go and get the book if we don't already have it, and then actually read it, and then we talk about it in the next show. So that's
Nice.
that's helping me out a lot. And just to connect more with, there's so many other people in the community that we probably haven't talked with. And so that's another thing that I want to do even more, because we are, we center like our podcast around people, and and that's just kind of something that I want to continue building and getting more involved in other projects, talking to other people, and just getting better at it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Just doing it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I think I had an easy time of it because here's a little Corey lore for you. Whenever I joined the Navy as a journalist, I went to a place called the Defense Information School in Fort Meade, Maryland. And at that school, you had to learn all the jobs that made the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service, AFRTS, function. So you had to learn how to be a radio DJ. You had to learn how to do anchor news. You had to learn how to be a weatherman. You had to learn how to operate all the cameras that film all those things. You had to learn how to write stories. And whenever we did that, like if you were doing your radio show, they would broadcast it live to the entire campus. Whenever you did the news, they would broadcast it live to the entire campus. So you would fail or succeed in front of everyone. And I think the best way of getting better at those things is sort of just turning off the part of you that cares so much and just doing it. And you just get better every single time, and you get a little more confident every single time. It's a success through repetition thing. I hear people say like, I'm just a natural born speaker. Some people do maybe have that built-in confidence, but it's my belief that anyone can be very confident in front of a camera or as a radio DJ. It's possible for anyone. And it's really just inoculating yourself by doing it a whole bunch, to where it's just nothing to you. It's just habitual.
Yes.
Yeah, and Dee's pretty good at in fact, I don't even think we get nervous anymore. Someone asked me,
you don't seem nervous. You both look so relaxed.
Very comfortable.
Thank you. Yeah, someone asked me like, "Oh, how was it when you interviewed David Yu?" I'm like, "Cool." It's like, "Oh, were you nervous?" I'm like, "I really wasn't." I was nervous last year. I mean, Heather, you must know. We sent you the video. I mean, if you guys seen the progression of the channel, a whole year we were nervous. In fact, that whole year we wrote scripts. Every single episode was scripted, whether it was good or bad, it was scripted. Now there are no scripts anymore. That's why we love the live stream. This is more like talk radio for us.
Yes.
So it's a lot
no
of
editing.
fun. No editing. Well,
Nice.
to an extent. I mean, we do all these little fireworks that you see. And it's mainly because I'm a creative and I have to get it out of my brain. I don't know if you're like this.
He does.
But like I have so much stuff in my head. If I don't put it to something, it'll drive me nuts, and it'll bug her. I'm like, oh, I want to do this podcast. What do you think of this idea? But I got
We
this
just do
and
it.
this. But but there's all these other ideas we could do. We could do this, and so like this is by the way, this is our household late at night when we're lying down in bed. I'm literally like drawing something on the iPad, and I'm like, okay, check these out. What do you think? It's like, what do you think about this
Go to
commercial?
sleep.
So
looks great, babe. Looks great.
You're like,
Yeah.
that's great. Let's
Yeah.
go to bed.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a whole evolution, for sure. And I love seeing it. And that's again coming back to putting in the legwork, doing the videos, making the content, even if it looks different than it did when you started, that's due to growth, and that's really exciting. And you guys should be really proud of how much you have accomplished in such a short amount of time, because so many people start and then just give up.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like what they imagined in their mind, so then they walk away. And I think that's with everything creative, and it's there's an extra layer of difficulty because there's so much transparency in putting yourself out there. What you look like, your appearance, what you sound like. What if someone doesn't like the sound of my voice? What if someone thinks, I look awful? It's hard. You want to put yourself together and have a consistent image and things. And there's a lot of work, involved emotionally about preparing yourself to go be in front of people, to be observed, because it's hard. I mean, whether it was your first time or your 50th time, there's still a layer of I'm being watched, and you want to make sure you're presenting yourself in an authentic way, and in a way, that's, hopefully in a positive light, and you don't fumble or say silly things. And by continuing at it and putting in all that work, you guys have changed so much. Dee and I messaged there in the very beginning. I got to see, some of that early script, and getting to see that first video and provide a teeny bit of feedback, but not wanting to do too much because it's you guys. It's you guys growing and doing your authentic self. And I just loved it. I was very excited when Dee messaged asking if we wanted to come join you guys,
Yes,
and especially to get to join you guys together, because we
Yeah.
haven't done that. And it's so nice. So it's so chill. It's comfy, cozy space, and getting to immerse in the community.
It's like a time capsule.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Love that. And thank you so much for saying that about our channel. You guys had a lot of inspiration in the channel in terms of the vibe, being real. So everyone, our name is a mouthful, the Real Uncommon Podcast. We were trying to get the Uncommon Podcast, and I was trying to work out a deal to buy the name. Someone actually has the name. Well, let's just say they ended up wanting to go a little bit higher in the price. And I said, okay, forget this. But we thought that we were going to have the name, because we were already working to get the name, because this person's not using the name. So regardless, I said, okay, well, we're not going to have the name. And so we're thinking about, well, what can we do? Because we wanted Uncommon in there, just because, it has a lot of meaning to us, right? The Uncommon variant is the variant that gets discarded a lot. You know what I mean? Nobody really likes it. That there's a lot of people that do like sketch variants. I'm a big fan of it, right? And so like, we really wanted to encompass the channel around that meaning. It's like, not everyone needs to be discarded, and everyone should be welcome, even the uncommon. And so that's the reason why we named it that. But the reason why we put real was an offshoot of the real Ghostbusters. If you guys remember Ghostbusters, right? You had regular Ghostbusters with like Bill Murray, and then you had the real Ghostbusters. Some people argue that they're not canon. I believe they're canon, and how they differentiate is the movies is Ghostbusters, and then you have the parallel, which is the real Ghostbusters. We're the parallel of the Uncommon Podcast. We are the real Uncommon Podcast, and that's the reason why we named our name that. Not a lot of people know that, so.
I love it. I honestly assumed it was because we have the real Hanano, and so we're the real podcast. So I love it. There's also like a level of cheekiness to that, intended or not, that I really love. Like if the other person's like, "No, I'm not going to let you have the Uncommon Podcast." All right, well now we're the real Uncommon Podcast.
Exactly.
Take that.
That was exactly it. Thank you for recognizing that. And so like the real Hinano was actually my name that I use on Facebook, and I just transplanted it over to, and it's the same iteration. It's because, there's me, and then there's the offset of me, which is the real Hinano, which is my digital identity. Yes. Well, the same thing went for the podcast as well. Gotcha. No, I wasn't trying to like copy the real Donald Trump or the real Randy Chavez. Yeah, right. It had its own meaning for me. So yeah. Well, guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, giving us your time. I know it's super late where you guys are. You guys don't even look like you're tired, but I bet you are. final words for the audience while I get the giveaway ready.
Just thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting me and Hanano. Thanks for coming to watch while we blabbered on, about, just everything that's going on. Just thanks for watching, because if you support these guys and care about these guys, doing something as simple as just showing up for the podcasts and watching, it means a lot. As content creators, having people to engage with in the times when you're maybe having to just set stuff aside mentally so you can come and do your thing and try to reach your goals, it matters a lot to see people show up. And so you guys being here, we appreciate as well. We appreciate your time, sitting here and just watching us.
Absolutely agree with everything. You just said it perfectly. I don't even need to say anything, I love it.
Let's go, guys. And also, guys, I want to say once again, we are going to be giving you guys this slab, and this one. And guys, so I didn't tell you this before, but this comes with a physical. So stay tuned for that. Oh, did I say something I wasn't supposed to say? Oh, okay. Anyways, maybe it comes with a physical, maybe it doesn't. I know there's going to be eyeballs and ears in the chat wondering, what about a physical? But anyways, yeah, those are going to go to you guys. And also for the chat, we have not forgotten about you. First place is going to win a copy of Absolute Superman #1, the Noir edition, right here. And Heather and Corey, if you want to enter in the chat, please go ahead and enter this as well.
No, I don't want to deprive anyone else.
Let's leave it to our viewers.
Yeah.
Got you. It's a great story, by the way, guys. I don't know if you've been reading the Absolute Universe. I love it. I'm a big Superman fan, and I love the iteration of Superman in this book. So I highly suggest you guys read it. Comic Guy, I read this book last night. I hope you're proud of me. So, guys,
you would be so proud.
I am going to run the giveaway tool right now. First place and second place is this Todd Batman that has been created by none other than Kid Arcade.
Beautiful.
D, close out the show.
Oh man, this has been so fun. Thank you so much again, Corey and Heather, for your time and coming on. And I can't wait to, maybe if we meet up in real life, Heather will have some yummy goodness to share, because it looks fabulous. But I'm very excited for you two to also go to San Diego Comic-Con, Heather, and actually meet people in real life and for your first time. So that's going to be great for you guys. But yeah, just thank you so much for coming on and sharing, so much about your personal life and just where you are. And it's just so good to catch up with you both. And also thank you, chat, for being here and watching and, just enjoying the conversation. It's been really fun. And I can't believe, looking at the time, it's been 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So that's been so awesome.
I told you, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you both so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's been
Let's
fun.
Go. And guys, with that being said, let's see who's going to win the comic book. Let's see who's going to have the juju tonight. Good luck.
Oh, good luck.
Dun, 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 dun.
No!
Yes! This is rigged, no, rigged.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. That's so
all right,
funny.
guys, show's over. Bye. No,
We win.
Psych!
Oh, man.
All right, one more time for the one more time. Let's see who's going to win this one, guys. Good luck.
Let's see.
Kryptonian!
Yay!
Nice.
Yay!
Grammy Award winner right here. Love it. Shout out, brother. This is coming to you, my friend. Let's see right here. Let me I can't make it big because it's too tiny, but yeah, Crispy AF coming to you, my mother. We will send that to you next week. And guys, one more winner. This is for the Kid Arcade Light Parade Batman. Let's see who is the final winner of tonight. And thank you guys for showing up and hanging out.
Yeah, that's a nice one too. This Light Parade one.
Osmond Collection.
Osmond Collection.
Yay!
Those hands are for you.
OG fan.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Right on, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. We have 140 people watching us right now. This has been an awesome interview. Awesome time hanging out with Vivian 3, formerly Vivian 3. Thanks, guys, so much. And
Thank
you.
Guys, this is it. Have a great weekend. We will see you guys on Tuesday for our UCBC giveaways. Yes, guys, you have until Sunday to sign up for our Discord giveaways. I'm going to give you guys till Sunday. Tuesday, we're going to roll the wheel for you guys. We're going to see who's going to win. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys. Every single time. We appreciate everyone for coming in every single time. Have a good weekend. Take care and aloha.
Bye.
So tune in every week and join the ride. We're the Real Uncommon Podcast, and we're here to provide